Hello, everybody! If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, from an undisclosed location where he's hiding from monsters, it's Tom. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hello, friends.
Also
It's
joining
dark.
us, it is dark where Tom is. Yes, we're doing an early
You
show
know,
because both of our guests are overseas where it is nighttime. Joining us for the first time, happy to have him on the show, Mr. Pleasant Kenobi. Vince, how you doing, brother? Good to have you here.
I am good, thank you. I'm a little bit on the tired end of things. It is 10 p.m. my time, and I had a full day of actually making videos for once. So, but I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to talk Warhammer and my newfound love that is Sigmar and fantasy.
That's right. We're gonna bring you in officially today. We're gonna talk about AoS 4. We're gonna talk about what should Magic learn and not, or what should Warhammer learn and not learn from Magic. We're gonna talk even a little 40k. It's gonna be a wide-ranging nerd out conversation. We're gonna get deep into it. But of course,
Are,
first,
are we? Are we? Hold on. Are we talking Assassin's Creed spoilers?
no, we're not talking Assassin's Creed spoilers. Other than we'll talk about why we can mention that free running shouldn't include commanders, but other than that, that's the only thing we'll mention. There you go.
You shut your mouth.
Uh, it's just a factually correct opinion. Okay. At any rate, let's start with the news. All right, here we go. Go ahead, Tom. Did you look at the news at all?
No, I didn't.
That's okay.
No.
I knew you wouldn't, so
Yeah.
I'm ready. The it's fine. He's had hours, but that's okay. Rumor engine. It's a
late.
40k
It's late
thing.
for him. Late for
Yeah,
him.
it's late for him. We'll give him a pass.
Thanks, Vince. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've got multiple Vinces to negotiate with today.
It's good. It's good Vince, bad Vince.
That's right.
But I'm not sure which fold I'm in. So
That's right. The rumor engine is a robotic leg from 40k of some kind, or Necromunda, or something.
let's
That
be
isn't
real.
AOS.
It looks kind of cool, so it's going to be Necromunda because that's how it rolls, right? If it's a cool model, it probably isn't in 40k, and they couldn't
That's-
possibly have rules that go across both systems, you know?
Preach, brother. This is he speaks only truth. Exactly. All the cool models are definitely just immediately Necromunda. This thing looks interesting. It's probably Necromunda. Okay.
There's a chance that it's Dark Mech or whatever the distant thing they're teasing towards with Vashtor and stuff, right? There's always that possibility.
Like Dark Mechanicum would actually be a thing that would interest me for the first time in a long time in 40k. More on that later. But yes, I agree. That would be super cool. Somebody saying, no, Vince, this is a Skaven bionic limb. That's some hopium. I love it. Snort that hopium right up.
I would love an entire squad of like 20 rats that all have like spring legs and they just
Absolutely.
bounce around the battlefield. Let's do that.
Little hoppers. Yeah, let's do it. All right. So that's the rumor engine. For those wanting to see full Fourth in action, there's a new battle report that just went up. I have not watched it yet, but it's Nick and playing someone else. So I don't know. Tom, did you get a
do we-
chance to watch it, or Vince, did you get a chance to watch it? Either of you?
Is it new or is it a like a late paywalled Warhammer Plus one? Because I knew something went up on Warhammer Plus that I hadn't had a chance to watch.
Oh,
And
maybe.
then this went
I
up
don't know.
today. I posted it on my Discord, and I think it's called Warhammer Plus. Hang on, I'm checking now.
Yeah, yeah. I know it just came up in like public feed today, so maybe
Yes,
it was
exactly. I think it's yeah. I think it's now it's like a re-upload to YouTube for the paupers that don't pay. It's called Skaven Type Battle Report Warhammer Plus. So I believe it's a redo because I only knew about the Warhammer Plus one. 'Cause I never checked Warhammer Plus because it's crap, right? But
Sure,
I knew
right.
about it because I said Warpfire Games had reran the battle report with like a competitive like angle using all the war scrolls that the battle report had given them, and that video was phenomenal and allowed me to learn a lot about like movement and actions and screening in AoS. So that's how I knew about this, and it came up on my feed. I was like, this is just a better edited but less informative version of the thing I watched on a non-GW channel. Interesting.
Well, there you go. And so, I mean, I guess check it out, or hit me with the link, Vince, afterward for the other one where they reran it. Oh, we'll link the
I
better
will.
one.
I will.
That sounds way better. All right, some new models. Okay, look, we got to see some new models. So they spoiled two new models, a new weird Skaven abomination thing. They gave him a name. I don't remember what it is, but it's a monstrous thing. And a Stormcast guy. Okay, I've got the Skaven guy up on my screen right now for the audience. Vince, did you get a chance to see this Skaven
Yes,
beast?
I am excited. I think it's called the. Oh fuck! I didn't write it down. It's called something Terror, like Horde Terror or Skittering Terror or something.
Something like
it's
that.
a big Frankenstein monster, right? It's just like a bigger rat ogre with a furnace stuck in its ass.
Yes.
I'm into it.
And then there's like a second Master Molder who's attached to it as well, like who's got grafted on.
So I assume it's a character it's like a character monster as well, and it hands out buffs. We don't really know yet, but
didn't we have that in Thankful?
I kind of
yeah.
I mean,
That's kind of a named one though, right? This is like an unnamed one.
And they're not physically bolted together.
Details. I mean, it's Skaven. It's fine. Like, I don't know.
Go ahead.
Do you like it, Vince?
I love it.
Well, hang on. Which Vince are you asking? Good Vince or bad Vince?
I don't know. This is terrible. This is the worst. Pleasant Kenobi. Do you like it?
I do. There's some issues with the visual language. Like, it's mainly the heads, right? The heads are like a weird size, and it reads a bit weirdly. I've seen some people shopping like bigger heads onto it and stuff. But ultimately, I like it. But I'm also just a bit of a fanboy for. As much as I don't agree with the thing GW does, I think their sculpting is probably their strongest point, and this model is full of cool detail that I can't wait to paint. So I do love it, and I'm all in on buying one on day one and painting it, and then finding out the rules are terrible and never playing with it for 2 editions, like with every centerpiece model.
Pretty standard.
That's fine.
The only thing I don't like is I actually don't have a problem with the little heads. I like how this one can the little one can whisper into the big one's ear, like, "Hey man, let's go over here." The only thing I don't like is this weird skin flap with the rock stuck in it that's kind of hanging over here to the side. I think it's meant to be like his leg, probably, or something. I'm not sure. The little guy's leg. But this secondary piece that's just kind of like this scrap that's just hanging down with no blades on the end. It just kind of ends in a little red tip. And I could tell the painter got to that part and was like, I have no idea what to do with this. So he just made it red on the end. That was just like, we got to do something here. I don't know, man. Okay.
It's a mistake with the tabard, obviously, from a painting standpoint.
Yeah.
Like putting those two colors together.
Right.
But for me, I think from a larger perspective, what interests me about it, sorry, I'm looking on my phone at the image because my laptop's being dumb. It's actually it's exploring body horror in Skaven. Like we used to have that with the Hell Pit Abomination, right?
Sure.
And it's an interesting exploration because we haven't really seen this type of genre within Skaven in a while.
I was going to say, how old is that model? The one you just mentioned, the Hell Pit thing.
So old, 2000s.
So we're talking what, 15 years old, maybe even less.
Almost 20.
Jeez. Yeah.
Yep. So we are due, right? We are due for some body horror, other than the little brain rats, obviously, that were in the Storm Fiends.
Don't discount the little brain rats.
Brain rats. Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested. It doesn't aesthetically appeal to me, but I am interested to see if this is a design direction for Molder as they move forward.
Oh, darn it, I had it. The Hell Pit Abomination plastic kit. I'm sorry, he's not that old. He's 13 years old. He was released in January of 2011. Younger than I thought. Just barely a teenager, that one.
The other interesting thing I found when I was looking about stuff this earlier, because I posted to Instagram the model, because I'm quite excited for it, was that there's a unit called Brood Horrors. You guys might be able to talk to this more than I do, because I'm new to fantasy / AoS. So Brood Horrors are in Warhammer Total War 2/3. But when I looked it up, it looks very similar to the new Grey Seer on Mount model. Because that's basically what it is. But the Mount is more grotesque in Warhammer 2. Is that an old unit that doesn't exist anymore?
It's a Forge World unit. Yep. It's an ugly sculpt Forge World unit. Right. And so they, a bunch of the Total War units are all Forge World stuff that they pushed forward. And so you'll see that with the new expansion for the one thing for Total War 3, the Warhammer Total War, with the land ship and stuff like that. They seem to be fronting Forge World units in those games, which is a real interesting decision, but that's where it's coming from.
Interesting. Okay, I've just found the model, and it is, with a good paint job, it's quite nice, but yeah, it does look a bit aged.
I mean, it has what we call Forge World skin in the game, which means it's bad. Because it's bad. It's bad. Anyways, I love this dude. I'm gonna cut off this little flap. I'm just gonna just shave that right off. We don't need that at all. Just cut that whole part right off, so all you have is the little top part of his body, and we're good to go, buddy. That's a minor change. Like, yeah, you got to change things. You got to change things. It's your model. Okay. So, then we had the Stormcast guy. We can look at him as well, and obviously
he does have feet.
Yeah,
he does have feet. I thought he was a legless man until I saw the back image.
Yeah,
that would be a bold reforge.
They're there. Yeah, they can really make those wings work, because they just kind of always be flapping. But yeah, I mean, this guy's cool, and it can also be the named redeemed special character, Torlin or whatever his name was, Torlid, who was the Nurgle champion who died a hero and actually got.
No, do not rewrite his story. He got hit with Gul Maraz, and the Nurgle got knocked out of him. That was the narrative.
He died repentant.
He did not die a hero.
He died repentant. Close enough. But yes, he did get knocked into next Tuesday by Gul Maraz. That's true.
Both of these models are so busy though. They're both stunning. Like, this is also another cool model where I'm like, if I've got the time to paint it, I would love to. But this model itself, because I'm going to buy the AoS starter box and try and paint the whole thing in like a week or two, right? That's just what I do with starter boxes. And I might pick up the big molder thing as well. I look at this and I'm like, no, this is taxing time-wise. This thing looks like it'll be a pain in my ass. Which is a lot of the time with a lot of the central character and centerpiece models, they have a lot going on, right?
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Like, you get a dude like this because you want to invest some time into it, right? Like,
yeah, definitely.
He's not a quick paint job. That is for sure. Those wings alone, right? And I mean, obviously this effect is super cool.
So he's the replacement for the Azeros, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's the new generic. So it makes me wonder if they're going to do the Night Venator as well. Like, if he'll make a comeback. Because, so, for context, Kenobi, they previously had a Venator and an Azeros as a dual kit.
Right.
It made two different heroes. And with the seeming discontinuation of the Venator, it'll be interesting to see if they bring that back or if that guy's just dead.
The post-rotation re-release of...
Mm-hmm.
That's what they've learned from Magic. It's like, we can squat all this stuff and then re-release it minutes later, and you're just like, what the hell are you doing? But I guess if they're re-releasing it as two different kits, that's a good way of making people buy two kits as opposed to like proxying the old kit as the new thing, because the visual language is so off, I guess.
I mean, if somebody showed up with if they did that and somebody showed up again at my table with an old Night Venator and was like, this is my Night Venator, I'd be like, yeah, okay, let's go.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. But I meant this one here, this is nothing that's previously existed, right?
They had an Azeros of sorts, but it certainly wasn't this. It was certainly not this. Like, boy, when you talk about a change in visual language, you aren't kidding. But yeah, I mean, he's cool. I still have the gripe that I am angry that we're this far, or this close to release, I should say, this far into this process, and we don't know what exactly Stormcast models are being actually re-released and replaced. Like, what a bunch of nonsense. You retired those things. You said replacements are coming. I still go back to that. We talked about it briefly before we went live. I'm like, I can't let it go. I'm so angry about the way they did the retirement announcement.
Yeah, I hated it too. I am very... it seemed on the Skaven side of things. Like, they said clan rats are going, then showed new clan rats like days later. Meanwhile, all the other stuff that's gone, how much of that is getting replaced? We just don't know, right? The little biker men. I want biker mics, but I don't even know if I should bother getting the old kits. I mean, I can get them as a hobby project, but like, will I be able to play with them?
Yeah, exactly. So, at any rate, just announce the stuff, please, for everything, the love of everything, GW. Just do it. Just announce what's coming.
We could maybe put a pin on this for the conversation of what GW could learn from Magic.
Yeah.
Like, maybe just a little bit more advanced marketing. That could work.
A better spoiler season.
A better spoiler, yeah, exactly.
But like, Magic lives in a perpetual spoiler season. This is the issue.
Sure. This is the problem. There's a double edge to that sword.
Not that, right?
Yeah.
This, not
look,
that.
Warhammer already has that as well because say whatever you will for Magic. Magic, obviously, yes, it is perpetual spoiler season. I mean, obviously. just like Modern Horizons 3. I'm still sleeving stuff and getting organizing things, and I'm watching Assassin's Creed spoilers, right? A thing I don't particularly care about, but yet now suddenly have to care about because apparently vehicles are a thing. I love vehicles. But anyways, the reality is Warhammer did crack that code a long time ago. Every week is release week. Every Saturday, is pre-release. Every Sunday is, hey, this is coming to pre-release next Saturday, right? Like there's a cadence to it, and they've trained people. Like they are a game company that has multiple new releases every week, basically 50 weeks of the year. Like there is 2 weeks around Christmas. They don't. That's insane. Like really think about what's going on there to make that process work.
It's like crazy. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. I've been talking about this recently, and I haven't done a whole video on it yet. But it's like there's this weirdness that 40k seems to be on a back burner for them at the moment because obviously AoS is their focus right now because they're re-releasing. But like every new reveal seems to be like a Necromunda kit or like some random Blood Bowl stuff and things. And like each faction in 40k right now going through new 10th edition releases is getting like one character model, if that. Some factions are getting nothing. Custodian's got an alternative gun on a character that already exists. It is wild how little love 40k seems to be getting. So part of me is like, if only they would spend some of this time they put on all these specialist games that arguably no one really plays in the scale of things compared to 40k.
No, you're gonna get the people with pitchforks coming after you, but I understand.
I'm sorry, but I'll get around to getting the Necromunda hype at some point. But on the flip side, I'm actually glad that it's not a constant stream of releases for my favorite factions, so the FOMO doesn't feel so real. So maybe that's a blessing and a curse, a double-edged sword there as well.
Yeah, it is. And look, to be fair, we went through the same thing with AoS, last year or whatever, where it's just like, yep, books come out. Here's your book. Here's a character. You probably didn't need this character. Here we are, right? And it's just like, be happy with it. And
wasn't Age of Sigmar used to this, though? Wasn't Age of Sigmar used to being neglected a little
second
bit?
fiddle? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, 40k isn't used to this. The 40k kids are like, excuse me, I thought I was the favorite son. Like,
right. That is fair. That is fair. Okay. Cool. Well, we got these guys. Let's talk about some faction focuses. That was also here. Tom froze. He'll be back in a minute. It's cool.
He froze in he isn't a horror movie. Look, he's just been got by the smile monster.
Yeah, exactly. But he's so happy about it, and that's nice. Okay. All right. So, look, we had Seraphon, we had Slaves of Darkness, and we had Ironjaws. So here's my question. I want to talk about this real quick. So Vince, do you like how they're doing the quote-unquote spoiler season lead up to this? How much have you paid attention to it? How many of these articles have you actually read? Like, do you go in and read these and be like, yes, I am happy this information has been delivered to me? How do you feel about these things in general?
As a fresh-faced AoS enjoyer who played 3 games of 3rd edition and then paused knowing 4th was coming, and I'm now like itching to play 4th, but I can't because it's obviously we're in a slow drip feed. I started out incredibly hyped reading every single one, like waiting for it to come up, at 4 o'clock my time, whatever, and looking at it, and then doing like a live react to on my Discord sometimes, like posting cool stuff. I got burnt out by the 9th one, I think it was. Like I was just like, it was like into factions that I care less about, I guess, as well. And there's only so many times I can read like the different forms of elves that just do 5 different things across 5 different phases. It's just kind of like, these are the same thing. Also, as I got to the factions that I was slightly familiar from old AoS, like Slaves, Nurgle, Slanesh and stuff, that I played a little bit of, I was realizing of the, I guess, dumbing down or simplification of some things, and I was like, oh no, because the faction I'm really familiar with from playing 3-4 games with is Blades of Khorne, who I think the current AoS 3 rules are cool. I use them as something that I explain to other players who play 40k about how cool AoS can be because of how interesting they are. Like, compare them to World Eaters, how terrible World Eaters rules are in 40k compared to how cool Blades are. And I'm very scared for the Blades focus as it comes around, because we haven't got to it yet, because I'm very scared that all the cool stuff I've been telling my friends about is just going to be gutted out of the faction. So I started out hyped, becoming a little bit burnt out every single day. And then I'm also realizing that a lot of it is quite simplified to the point that it might be a little bit too far the other way, perhaps.
That's fair.
So that's how I'm feeling initially.
No, that's good. That's a good response. And I think that's it. I'd love to know I'd love to like see the internet traffic on this, right? Where like the initial faction focus articles had this many hits, and just watch the line go down.
And also, not all factions are created equal, right? So I'm assuming, like, slaves, for example, was probably a spike because they're a classic faction that people like and stuff. Or like, I don't know, the Dolphin Boys.
The IDK, yes.
I was literally just going to say IDK. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who's popular, who's not in AoS, really. I just have to get a vibe. Like, I've spoken to other, like, elf players in other games, and they're like, I don't have any affiliation with the Dolphin people. I'm like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, I think that is very correct, and you're already in on the AoS world if you understand that dichotomy, yes, or that reality. Yeah, you're good. You've correctly identified it.
But as a non-elf person, the fish people actually do interest me a little bit more. I'm like, oh, they're riding sharks. That's cooler than most elves, I guess. But
so we got the Seraphon, and as usual. So now we've got every time with Seraphon, we take a different crack at things like Zinch. There's always weird stuff going on. So now their thing is you get this little asterism ability, and if you complete the plan, you pick a plan at deployment, and then if you complete the plan, you get a second plan. That's effectively what's happening here. Okay. So, for example, let's explain. So at the start of the game, I'm going to pick my asterism. I want to say asterisk. I want to call it an asterisk, but it's not what it is. But it's not a word anyways. So let's pick Itzel the Tamer. That's fine. Okay. Effect: companion weapons used by friendly Seraphon units have crit 2 hits. Cool buff for all your monster people, right? So companions are like the monsters they're under. So, you're assumingly all your different little monster boys now have crit 2 hits. Cool buff for that if you're doing any kind of monster heavy shenanigans. And
is that the horses and mounts usually? No, that's what the companion keyword's attached to now. Yeah.
Exactly. So, or in this case, the bigger dinosaurs. That there's like 8 little skinks.
Their mounts are a bit bigger than other people's mounts usually.
Right. Dinosaurs. I've always argued that they should be worse. Okay, than everything else, because they are evolutionarily like a dead branch on a tree.
That's
they lost.
Not fair. They evolutionarily got wiped out by a meteorite. Is the established logic, isn't it?
Mammals won. That's all I know.
I don't think Darwin was like survival of the fittest unless meteorite. No, I think he was actually survival of the fittest, asterisk unless meteorite.
Meteorite. Hey, I'm just saying they didn't come back. We're not all dinosaur people today. Okay, that's all I know. We're mammalian. So
they're all living under the Earth's crust, though. That's what they are.
There you go.
They are kind of aliens, though.
Sure.
Right?
No, are the Seraphon aliens? I thought the Slan were aliens, and they just harvest the lizard men like as a resource pool. Am I wrong on my lore there?
No, you're right. The Slan are kind of aliens because they're created by the old ones who are aliens. I'm not saying they exist in
40K,
but they're aliens. Yes. And then they made the frogs, and then the frogs made everybody else. To be like kind of got into little spawning pools and made everybody else. And now sometimes they also remember them into existence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So Itzel the Tamer. So cool. Your monsters get better. And then if by the end of the third turn, because once per battle, start of the third battle round. So if in the first 2 battle rounds, 3 or more enemy units have been destroyed, then you can further the Great Plan. You can use this ability to meet the condition below that corresponds to the asterism you picked. You get to pick a second asterism. You don't switch it, you just get that one indeed. So for example, you could then pick like Sotek the Deliverer and add 2 to the move characteristic of all your Seraphon units. Now, in reality, you maybe do that in the other direction, but whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is that you could do that sort of thing. Okay, fine enough. I actually don't hate this. I'll say that. It's fun. You're trying to do a thing. You have a little mini role-playing game you're playing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a new mechanic.
It is a new mechanic.
This feels like Zinch in 2.0, where they're like, here, have some schemes. Let's see if this works.
Sure. No doubt. You're exactly right. We're trying some new things here. But look, Seraphon has classically been a mess. Yeah.
Sure, certainly.
You talk about an army that needed simplified. Good God, this one needed simplified. I'm
assuming they can get all of them online over the course of a game.
Well, they can't get more than 2. No, because that you can only
Right. The way the wording is that you can only activate a second one in the third turn.
You can go to 2
if you completed the prior one. Yeah.
Yep. And I mean, like.
Yeah. Sorry, I misread that entirely.
You're all good. It's going to be a lot of. Well, I mean, one thing we can now say is because of the way these things are all written.
Reading the ability explains.
Did you read the ability? Yes, reading the ability explains the ability.
They've for the audience at home, that's a reference to a popular Magic axiom. They've color coded the abilities actually, so I was being more dense because black abilities are once per battle, right? And both of those are black on the sheet.
Yes, you can have once per battle show up in different. The color is generally the timing. So start of battle round is black. Okay.
Is it the image in the left hand corner? Is the
that's the type of thing it is. So this is utility versus a pass. Like
so I was wrong. They haven't color coded once per battle then.
No, they have not. No, you can have once per battle anyway.
They basically rolled keywords and the equivalent of keywords and timing types, effect types, into their color coding symbology with no actual explanation or grounding in actual.
Yeah, because I'm looking at this one here and I'm finding it very hard to figure out what these colors mean because they've got passives that have different colors.
Right. The key is that it's nothing to do with the effect or that. It has to do with what is it relevant to. So for example,
what phase or whatever.
Yeah, the crit 2 hits is a combat ability, right? So it's red because it has to do with attacking. The subtract rend is a defensive ability. So like offensive abilities red, defensive abilities green, movie based abilities are orange, and magic-y based abilities yellow, start of turn-y abilities black. There you go.
Okay, I've got it. I figured it out.
Yeah,
moving. But movie. Movie reviews,
movie board, yeah.
Like your Letterboxd account is linked in the description below. Not like that.
Correct. If you're colorblind, then you don't have the advantage of. If it depends, I would assume you're probably red-green colorblind, as there's a decent percentage of the population that's red-green colorblind. If you're red-green colorblind, then obviously it's less useful because those are grays, but they are still listed as to what they do.
I wonder what number of people find out they're colorblind through their trying to learn AoS 4. It's got to be like a non-zero number.
Yeah, somebody. It happened.
Yeah. They've actually been playing wrong for months, where they've been playing the abilities in the wrong phases.
Right.
And then an opponent's like, "Oh, dude, that's a movement phase ability." I'm like, excuse me. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's clearly gray. It's start a turn. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we've got some other stuff. Like, here's the thing: we're gonna do in a matter of weeks, we're gonna do a whole show where we dive into all of this. So I'm just not gonna do these things in detail. I'm not spending a million years on these relevant things. Go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Are you going through Seraphon? Is that what you're doing?
Yes. I'm just going to mention a couple quick Seraphon things. Salon Stormmaster is your little fat frog. He's fragile as all get out, but still a strong caster within the span of this. Like, he's a 5-up, 6-up with 9 health. This little frog is going to get splatted against a wall if anyone gets a hold of him, but he's still Wizard 3. And what's really interesting here is the Salon.
He's infantry.
He is infantry. Yeah, sure. But he's War Master.
He's riding. Sure. You're saying because it makes him a general. I was more taken by the fact that he's infantry, despite the fact that he's riding a floating chair.
Yeah, and but a chair's he's not a mount. I mean, that's a chair.
How big's the chair?
Yeah, to be fair, it's pretty.
Is the chair animate? Is it sentient?
I don't think it's not sentient, but it can. He makes it fly around.
The chair does not have any attacks, and thus it is not a mount.
So here's the test, right?
Is Professor X cavalry?
No, stop. Although that's a great question. No. Is the Cauldron of Blood cavalry? Because they ride around.
No.
Or not cavalry. It's a war machine. I'm even more confused now. No.
In all fairness, it should just be based upon balancing. Like, what do these keywords give these units, and whether or not they should have them, right? You get that 40k when Gaz wasn't infantry for a long time. She had to run around buildings, and it was like the worst thing in the world. So,
well, the reason why I bring it up is targeting. Like, targeting may be an issue with him having the infantry keyword.
Yeah, it means
What?
It means he can hide.
Yes.
It means he can hide. So his survivability means less because he can't be targeted. Being infantry as opposed
that's
to
probably by
cavalry.
design, right? Isn't that always been a Seraphon thing? Is that they hide all their wizards?
Yeah, the little frogs and little skinks are very hard to get at. You gotta go get them, right? Yeah. That's the key. You gotta go over and get the gold.
I just want to shoot him. I just want him to be cavalry so I can just remove him.
Then get closer. Because you can shoot him if you get close.
As someone who's been painting Blades of Corn, I was like, well, you coward, just get in there. But I've also been painting Skaven, so now I'm like, actually, shooting sounds great. I do want to be able to shoot enemy characters. So
yeah. Well, don't worry. With Skaven, you still can, because with Skaven, your engineer is a sniper who ignores he has the like in 40k, he has the whole ignore your.
But I'm also thinking multiple catapults, multiple machine guns, and those won't be able to snipe people, unfortunately. But I guess if you just shoot everything in front of them, they can't hide if there's nothing left, right?
Correct. It's exactly. Skaven have a very simple solution to you hiding your hero next to a unit. Explode everything else and then leave the hero standing there alone. He won't accomplish much.
If you have more bullets than they have infantry.
That's right.
Yeah.
Simple enough.
More power.
We got the Saurus Old Blood. He's fine. He's a big hero monster. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Like, he does some damage.
So as a layman, as a newbie, you mentioned how like 5-up, 6-up ward with 9 wounds isn't that durable. Mm-hmm. How durable is a 14 health 4-up save no ward? Because that doesn't sound durable either.
Nope, he's still fragile. Yeah, very fragile.
Historically, it has not been durable. Now, what we don't know is the new math, based on it seems like they've tuned down damage, and so we don't actually know what durability looks like yet. So, it would be ambitious for us to say that that's not durable.
I mean, I've seen Yndrasta and other anti-monster tech. And if Yndrasta drops across the battlefield and this guy's on the battlefield, he is pooping his little dinosaur pants. Okay? Yeah. Because that 8 damage spear is going to come wreck him. And he's basically got no save against it.
Yeah.
So, you know.
That's exciting.
So my answer is he's still fragile, right? I mean, you're right, we don't know the baseline damage, but you're also right, Vince, that 14 wounds on a 4-up is just classically not that tough for a hero. Those things will die if a big.
It might be 110 points. Then you can just bring 3 of them. So who knows?
Who knows?
We just don't know yet.
With that is true. I mean points change the map
if it's 110, there's no limit on. There's no limit with auxiliary units at this point. So you could bring 15, or no, you can.
Bring 15. There's no rule of 3 in this game. Is that right?
You could. Yeah. You could bring 15 of them.
Yeah. No one will ever bring auxiliary units, so it doesn't matter. That's fine.
Well, 15 T-Rexes does sound fun, though.
Sure. As a meme list, it would be very funny, but no one in any real list will ever bring auxiliary units, period. So, that's fine.
We'll see.
Pterodon Riders. Yep. Okay, cool. And Engine of the Gods. That's what I think. Seriously, that is my summary of them. Engine of the Gods, still a funny little weird thing. I love how every time we write rules for this thing, we're like, all right, what if we try again? Just so Vince, I want to hit you with some deep lore, okay, of the AoS world, since you didn't come into this. If you're playing a Magic game and somebody drops a Time Warp effect or Time Walk effect of any kind, right? Sure. Immediately you hate that person, right? That's just if they play a card that says I get to take an extra turn after this one. You basically now hate that person. That's just kind of a stated rule, right?
For the casual, yes.
Sure, of course. All right. When Engine of the Gods was first, and keep in mind, AoS is a game with the potential for double turns in it already, right? So you can go twice, just as the game is constructed. When the Engine of the Gods first came out, the way it worked is you power it up and it rolled a bunch of dice, basically 3 dice. And if you rolled an 18. So not likely on 3 dice, but obviously it is a possible
statistical possibility.
It is like an 8% chance or something, right? It's
very
not too low.
Well, 3 6s is a
2 6s is 36. Yeah. So 3 6s is 6 times more than that.
216. 1 and 216.
Yeah.
There we go.
So it's sub 2%.
Yeah. So, but what happened was you got to take an extra turn. That was what it did.
Okay.
If you rolled the 18, you got to take an extra turn. So you could
That does
potentially
sound a
take
bit broken.
3 turns in a row. Okay.
Was there any way to buff that or change that? Or was it just like you just got this very small chance that you get this thing that absolutely breaks the game?
You just got this very small chance that you get this thing that actually breaks the game, which is like funny.
Because the reason I pause on the magic thing is that if someone turn 2 in magic, if someone casts Time Walk and they then go untap, play a 3rd land past turn, they've cast an explore. Really, it's not very good, right?
Right.
But because Warhammer and War Games don't work on that axis, they work on here's all your resources available immediately, and thus if you get an action economy of an entire extra turn, you just win. Like, I mean, AoS has an alternate in combat to offset that compared to 40k. So in your example, I was like, well, if you Time Walk on turn 2, it's pretty bad, but there's never a bad time to take an extra turn, other than maybe turn 5 in a game of like a war game, right? That's to clarify my pause.
No, totally reasonable. So now what we've gotten to is little tokens. You build up your little tokens, and then what you can do is heal everybody, or you can pick 3 units and return models to them, which could be actually really good, depending on what we're talking about, because it's just any friendly Seraphon units. So like you can put back Agrodons and stuff like that. Those are multi-wound models. Like getting back a full Agrodon's not a bad effect. Or you can pick 3 units and give them strike first. So you can be mini IDK, which is interesting because then you'll activate. It breaks the back and forth combat that you just talked about, Vince, right? Because now you're activating 4 units before they go once if it's your turn. So
yeah, I could activate 3 Carnosaurs. I'd be okay with that.
Sure, and your all Carnosaur list is now in 1 Engine of the Gods just to get the strike first.
Well, actually, it sounds like we have the points for five Engines of the God and 15 Carnosaurs, right? Is it unique?
It's not unique. Well,
there you go.
There you go. All right, let's move over here to a more interesting one. S2D. S2D is funny because it's sort of exactly the opposite. Where, like, with things, armies like Seraphon and Siege, they can't figure out what they want to do. Like, how does this army work? S2D has been the same since it was printed in, like, 1994, thematically. You have an Eye of the Gods, and you have a Mark of Chaos. This is the thing. This is the way, right? It's like, you've subbed to a god, and so because of that, you get some special ability, and also sometimes the gods will notice you and potentially help you and give you cool stuff.
Or turn you into a spawn.
Or turn you into a spawn.
But not anymore, right?
Not anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Now it's just no effect.
Lovely.
No spawn anymore. The Chaos Gods have chilled out in 4.0. They got a new member. There's officially 5 Chaos Gods in AoS now. 5 big gods. Yep. So because the Horned Rat joined up. So you know they're chilling out. They're in their beach phase. They're more relaxed. Somebody started broadcasting Jimmy Buffett throughout the realm of chaos. Truly,
are you saying that the Horned Rat is your Corona? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he's a calming effect. That's right. Yeah.
Right.
He showed up and he was like, "Hey guys, let's chill. Let's chill."
Maybe he was like, "Hey, that's my stuff. Like blowing ourselves up. That's my stuff. So you guys aren't allowed to blow yourselves up anymore."
Yeah, absolutely.
I really wish they'd add Horned Rats for 40k as well. Even if we don't get Space Skaven initially, I just wish the Horned Rat was knocking about. You know?
Absolutely. Boy, you want to talk about the quickest road to get me playing 40k? Just throw Skaven in the mix in some way, and I'm over there in a heartbeat.
So, here's my fan theory: Vashtor gets worshipped as the Horned Rat, even though he's not, but he looks like one, right? And then the Skaven are just temporarily distorted, so it's the exact same model line with no future tech. But they just win through insurmountable numbers and worshipping a big robot man who doesn't want to be worshipped. That was my pitch, and I think it'd be great. But
I accept your pitch. Make it real, GW. Let's go.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, Hendrik actually said needs an errata for Mark of the Horned Rat. I agree. What the heck? He's joined up, but yet no Mark of the Horned Rat. Okay. So the interesting thing about Eye of the Gods now is that any unit can get it. So each friendly Slaves to Darkness unit that destroyed an enemy unit this turn. The only thing that can't be done is beasts and non-hero monsters. So basically dumb things that are too stupid to actually supplicate themselves can't actually draw the Eye of the Gods. But your units, so that means all your units, your chosen and everything like that, just like they always used to be able to, but also your warriors and your chaos knights and all of that can gain, +1 to hit for the rest of the battle, a ward of 6 up or 5 up for the rest of the battle, +1 to rend for the rest of the battle, or pick a thing for the rest of the battle.
Are they poisoning the well with those units? Like, are they preloading? Like, let me say it doesn't.
Are they weaker? I understand.
Well, like, are they changing the calculus on fielding those units, right? Because if you can never basically get you can't get your allegiance ability. You can never get the benefits of any of the Eye of the Gods on those units.
Oh, you're saying beasts or non-hero monsters? Yeah.
Right. Why would you take them?
They'd have to be really good. It'd be the other, like, they would have to be so good, right?
They would have to be so good that you could just ignore your allegiance ability.
Right.
Yeah, they could either have a very good data sheet or they could be cheap enough to be chaff in terms of beasts and similar, right? Like,
yeah, or meet in the middle, right? But you're right, Tom. It's the same thing that we ran into with summonable. With SPG, where it was like, summonable units get X and Y and Z, and they have cake on Fridays, and it's a party for everybody. And non-summonable unit, it's the meme of like the mom holding up the kid while the other kid's drowning, you know, and it's like GW summonable units, and then non-summonable units are over here, and then Blood Knights are the corpse down at the bottom of the pool or whatever. You know, it's just it immediately creates a sort of two-tiered system, right?
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, it's. They would have to.
There'll be one sub faction. There'll be one sub faction that gives all beasts +1 to charge, and it'll be unplayable.
And then your marks. Probably. And as usual, this is the problem. This has been the problem for all time. Okay, which is, what do you do with Nurgle? Because the answer is obvious. The answer was always like +1 to toughness, -1 to be wound, they're hard to kill, right? That's always the answer. And every time it is like de facto the best answer, because being tougher is simply better than anything else. I literally did like a whole show about why defense is always stronger natively than offense in this game. Okay? Period. And yet again, here we are with, like, I look at all these, and let me go through them real quick here. Ready? Undivided. Skip. Who cares? Garbage. First of all, commit. Like, just thematically, commit. Who's like, I'm kind of everybody? This is undecided voter territory. Pick somebody, okay? Stop it. Go.
So the undivided thing appears to just be attached to certain things. Like Be'lakor is undivided, right?
Yeah.
And the Marauders, the cultists, they're also undivided. So it's basically just all these random things. I guess what's his name? Not Abaddon, but the AoS equivalent. What's his name? Archaon.
Archaon.
He'll be undivided as well. So they just get a monster hunter ability where they just slap monsters with +1 to wound, right? That's just a thing. Sure. But you never take on anything else.
Right.
No.
So then Khorne, right? Gets +1 to attacks on the charge. Classic Khorne thing. That's basically every time they've written Khorne in every game where they've written Khorne, it's +1 attack on the charge. Fine, I'm not opposed to it. The problem is you can potentially go a whole game where that mark literally does nothing. It's quite easy for that to happen, right? Because if you get charged and caught flat-footed, it doesn't apply. And then if you just get gummed up, if they just hold you in combat, which is like, you don't have your bonus to fight your way out of it, so it's very easy to get gummed up and just stuck there. Great. I may be speaking from experience here many times. Tzeentch, like a 4-up ward against mortal damage from spells and manifestations. First of all, the best use of magic is never hitting your enemy with it, period. It's always buffing your own units, right? Because you can buff your own units from outside of unbind range. Your buffs are generally better. It pays way more dividends. Like an attack spell is it's a force multiplier. An attack spell is gonna do like D3 mortal damage. You know what you get more than 2 damage out of? Giving an entire unit +1 to wound of like 20 just rip killers, right?
When I read this, I was like, am I misunderstanding how much damage comes out of spells in this game? Because the Tzeentch one seemed so dramatically worse than the others. And the Slanesh one isn't great. But the Tzeentch one was just like so low down.
Well, what I will say is this: we don't know the math on manifestations yet.
Yeah,
we know that endless spells are going to take a more significant role, and
a 500-point spell Spine of Krond or whatever.
Right, exactly. Right. The only counter argument to Tzeentch potentially being okay is because everybody just has manifestations for free now, so I guess that's just a thing we have to deal with. Like maybe it's more useful, but.
Like, I could imagine having one unit as your manifestation tanking unit, right? Sure. Like, I could imagine having something that intercepts and holds the Kronspine.
Sure. unless, like, in fact, what happens with the endless spells is the utility ones are the more valuable ones, and so people just end up using the self-buffing those as well, and then it's like, okay, well, great. Nurgle, subtract 1 from wound rolls for combat attacks that target the unit. Okay, we know shooting got worse in this edition. Yeah, we know that to be a fact, and so, like, it got shorter range, it got less effective, which is good, by the by. Okay, like, that's a good thing. It's a combat game. -1 to wound is such a huge buff for just, like, your unit in combat all the time. There you go. Have a good time.
It seems just very good.
The chance of you not, like undivided, high potential chance you go the whole game with that unit never using its mark ability, because you never fight a hero or monster with that unit. Entirely possible. All right? They've got 2 utility heroes and no monsters. There are many armies that have that configuration, basically.
Sure.
Right?
It's basically matchup dependent, though, right? Because there are some armies that will just always have huge monsters that you can't not fight.
If you're fighting Sons of Behemoth, it's a great day for you, right? Like, hey,
yeah,
right.
yeah, and vampire dragons, all this crap. That's probably still going to be good enough to always see play.
Yep. So, like, but it's highly possible that you go through a whole game and your buff literally does nothing. Khorne, you can go through a whole game and your buff literally does nothing. Tzeentch, you can go through a whole game and your buff literally does nothing, right? Because they just don't cast any spells at you. They have, like, 1 spellcaster, and it's there to do, like, +1 to wound to my guys, or something like that, right? Or whatever.
Double hit on 6s.
Yeah, sure. Great. You know, they just self-buff, right? Nurgle, 0% chance that ability doesn't do something. 0%.
Whoa. If it's standing on an objective in the back, it may never get attacked.
Okay.
They could also just avoid going to an objective that you have a load of Nurgle marked stuff on. They're just like, you know what?
Here's my point. If they're never triggering
on all
this,
objective holders.
Yeah. If they're never triggering this, you've won the game.
But they're still like, see, I proved good Vince wrong.
That's right. Ha! Your mark meant nothing. I got 0 objectives and never interacted. I never
lost the match,
or
but you got 0 mark value. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I've won the moral battle. That's right. And then Slaanesh is, like, fine. It's okay. Like, +1 to run and charge is fine. It's largely dependent on how much run and charge exists in the army, right? Like, if the more run and charge that exists as a buff, the better this gets. But just +1 to charge is actually a legitimately good ability. It doesn't seem huge, but it's good. Again,
what's the
decent
right
chance
decision?
you're going to trigger it somewhere. What's that?
What's the right design decision for Nurgle then? Is it something like -1 to hit from ranged attacks, like the swarming flies ability on prior units, or is it something like...
You can do it on things that are stronger, right? You see that in the bodyguard rule in 40k right now, where they released it all as -1 to be wounded when led, and then as they've released the books, a lot of them have switched to -1 to be wounded by things that are bigger than you or stronger than you. So that way you don't you aren't strong into volume of attacks, you aren't strong into weaker things, and so on and so on. It's just that you can tank much hardier things. There's like you just need to put a causation clause on a -1 to wound for something, right?
Make it conditional.
Yeah, or when you are charged. It doesn't make any sense that Nurgle can charge you and then still be like, oh, I won't fight there because when you fight me, you got 15% damage reduction because of my -1 to be wounded. Like, that doesn't make sense either, right? Especially when Khorne have to get in. Why does Nurgle get it either way? That's a bit unfair on Khorne, right?
Right, exactly. No, I agree. That's exactly right. It should be like -1 for wound rolls in combat against something or in condition X or Y, right? So it's actually like, so there's some kind of tactical skill to it. Not just you march your wall of green iron up and stand there and be like, I guess come punch me.
That's the problem as well with painting challenges. I started painting my slaves and I think they're looking pretty good, but I'm painting them in this teal color. And then I'm gonna have to do the capes in the colors of the marks, perhaps. Because I want all my whole army to be the same colored armor because I think the color is nice.
Absolutely.
Oh,
that's always a challenge.
It's a hard life being a model painter, isn't it?
It is. Armies like this legitimately do have a painting challenge. Skaven's the same way, where you have like a lot of different sub allegiances or something. You know, like within Skaven it's the clans, and this it's the marks. Where you want them to be like visually distinct in some way, but you still want a coherent army, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the marks matter more because it's actually hidden information from your opponent, or at least confusing information from your opponent. I agree with you that making your sub-faction stuff different is both it's both a compelling thing to do for yourself, and it makes your army look more interesting. But the mark thing, like, it can just affect, like, they can charge my teal guys, and they're like, oh, these are the corn ones. I'm like, no, dude, they're the Nurgle ones. I'm like, oh shit, probably shouldn't have charged those ones. Well, you have to charge them anyway at some point. So there's that as well, where I want my opponent to know what I'm up to. I might probably just bring little tokens and put them next to all my units. But there's the marks, and that way I can paint them my red and teal without having to worry or whatever.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right. Then we get the one of the most uninspiring faction abilities I've ever seen in my life, or sub-faction rules. Ironclad Onslaught. Once per turn, army, end of turn. I was so excited when I read the name, by the way. So I've always been a big fan of, like, the idea in Chaos of the what, you know, just like the Iron Wall, like Chaos Warriors, Chaos Knights, Chosen, just like these huge armored figures, right? The classic, like, Iron Wall marching forward, right? I love, like, that's Chaos to me, right? Like,
yeah, that's what's pulling me in, is that the new Chaos Warrior sculpts as well are so gorgeous. Like, exactly. I want to field 40 of them, but I probably won't get to.
Yes.
Oh.
Hello, my wife and the dog.
Dog interlude.
Canines of Chaos. Hello.
Hello.
I don't have any idea if these dogs have been fed.
I told you. Yes, they were fed. Yes, they were out. And yes, they empty.
Okay. Well, there we go.
The dogs are lying. They're barking for more food, even though they've been fed.
That is what they do. They're
liars. My dogs are exactly the same. My wife was like, "Have you even fed them? They're barking." Well, yeah, they just want more food, though. Like,
she tried to jump into the fire. Here's the dog. She makes a better co-host than Tom.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Absolutely. There you go. All right, everybody hit like for the dog raid. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, Penny's coming up here too. Come on, Penny. She went on the other side.
Oh, I wish that one wouldn't bark. It would be so much nicer if they were just quiet.
I have Dachshunds, and there's so many of my videos that's just random barking in, like, the back of a line delivery that I've tried 3 times. I'm like, nah, that'll do. I'm not redoing that line again.
I have to record everything, like, late at night when the dogs are all in bed and two floors away from me. It's the only option.
I want to respond to something in chat where they said about base rings and coloured rubber bands as answers for marks. Base rings, okay. Rubber bands, I completely understand as a solution at a tournament to, like, colour code your armies of what transports they're in or what marks they've got. But my God, does rubber banding my beautifully painted miniatures really bug me? Because it's just it's so aesthetically disgusting to me. So
what about movement trays?
Oh, color coded movement trays is pretty good. That's a pretty good idea.
Color coded movement trays.
Yeah, because at the point where you're taking the tray away, they'll know at that point, right? Like they'll remember, because it's like, it's not a bad idea.
Well, the way I'm thinking the Chaos Warriors, their sheet might be is that you never get half a unit left. It's just you pick them all up as they wipe them off the table, fortunately. So.
All right. So I was really excited when I read this ability, Ironclad Onslaught, because that's the type of S2D I like. And then I read this ability and I was like, oh, I'm not excited anymore. This is the best we could come up with? Okay. So you get to pick an objective that's contested by any friendly units to be the target. Just contested. You don't have to control it, so that's fun. But you place a defiled token on it, then roll a d3 for each enemy unit contesting that objective. On a 2+, they take mortal damage. Cool.
That's an amazing ability, because it triggers every time you defile, and it triggers on all objectives every time you defile. It's actually really powerful. Can we talk about the fact that they're making us use tokens again?
Sure. I mean,
like, did we move away from tokens?
Also, hang on a second. It doesn't say place it on an objective that isn't already defiled. Can I not stack this on the same objective 4 times and just nuke everything? Is that how that works? There might be a core rule that says you can't tokenize something that already says it, but the rules is written, I'm going to turn 1, 2, 3, and 4, put things on this, and they can't step near it because they're taking like 4 D3 mortal wounds, and then I'm charging them. Sounds fun. I like it.
The trick is it wouldn't multi-trigger, because the effect says you place the defiled token, then you roll a d3 for each enemy unit contesting an objective that has a defiled token.
Not for each. You're right. So yes, they've written it cleanly and succinctly. That's even more impressive.
Yeah.
But what you could do is, on some of the forward objectives, you get to defile them, and then keep triggering a back objective that you just have And every time you hit that back objective with a new token, it triggers all of the objectives that have tokens on them.
Yeah.
I think this is bad. This is
really
bad. Yeah.
The damage output from it seems not very high. I'm assuming that other sub-faction abilities will be like, all your guys get +1 to hit if they're still on an objective and stuff like that, right? Or charge and plus so the damage output you get from other buffs, I assume, will be so much higher than D3 mortal wounds to like 3 squads that are touching an objective that you're currently fighting over. Am I wrong in that?
No, I think you're exactly right.
I would say let's wait and see what the other ones are. Because at the end of and how much mortal wounds do slaves have? If they have no mortal wound output, this may be it.
Yeah, okay. Because I was hot for it when I could do it, like I could stack one objective to be like truly toxic. But now I'm like, oh, I get to kill up to 3 clan rats a turn.
Right.
Meanwhile, another faction is like,
restores 2d3 around.
Yeah. Meanwhile, another faction's got, I've got +1 attack across the entire army for some clause that I need to meet, and you're like, okay, that seems like better damage output than this, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, I'm not gonna say what happens going into Night Haunt.
The name convention is weird though. Like, how has this got anything to do with ironclad men?
What does this? Why? What?
It feels very Nurgle. It feels very toxic. It could be like the fires of Zeke or the plagues of Nurgle, but men in armor.
This feels like a play-tested Nurgle mechanic that they're like, we want to use this somewhere, just not on Nurgle.
Yeah. A quick question for you is, do you know if Index Hammer we're only getting 1 sub-faction per tome or army?
4.
We are getting 4 sub-factions per tome? Wow. Because when they indexed 40k for 10th, I don't know if you guys know, they went to 1 faction per, which is, okay, that's super exciting.
And when they preview them, they tell you 1, and then they allude to what the abilities do.
Oh, I never read the bits between, because it...
Yeah.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah, like we know we've still got a just spoilers one, because that talks about the demon prince and monsters and stuff in there. And so
Sweet. Is there any chance we're not getting the old slaves thing back where I can bring mixed demons, right? That's just not a thing that's coming back unless take auxiliaries.
That's right. Yeah.
We see no evidence of allies.
They want to keep armies in there.
Silo.
In the same ways they don't want models to be cross game or cross platform. They don't want models to be cross army either, I guess.
Yeah. Tundrageist, they'll be in the indices, in the free indices. You'll have all the sub factions. Everything you need to play is in the free indices. There's nothing different in the cards than what you're going to get in the indice. It's the free PDF is exactly the same as the cards you buy. Okay. Demonic Speed. Here's a spell cast on a 7. It's only within 12, and you get to make a 3d6 charge. Heyo, that's good. And it's not it's not a cavalry unit anymore. They could have kept this. Now, in the previous one, they said you have to have a mount. Now we actually have the technology. They keyworded cav, and they were like, nah, anybody, go nuts. Just go nuts. Okay.
Well, it doesn't make sense that the gods would only bestow speed onto horses and flying discs or whatever the options are, right? Or chariot.
Sure. Hey, I'm here for it.
Legs, you know?
It's just funny to me that the previous version of this, where they didn't have like cavalry as a thing, but clearly that's what they wanted.
They didn't have the rules tech.
Yeah, they had to like shoehorn it in and be like, they've got to have a mount and not, but that can't be a companion and whatever, blah blah blah.
I'm asking a lot of basic layman stuff here because 40k has infected my mind. Are we still in the old AoS 3 thing of you roll a charge and then charge something within range, or do you have to declare a thing?
Same thing. It's you roll the dice. And then
so a 3d6 charge is so much better in this game than it would be in 40k because you just roll 3d6 and just see where you can get to. Where in 40k it's like I declare this one thing, it's too far, I fail, I stand still, which makes no sense because you just lose all momentum because you couldn't get to the thing you want to get to. Okay, that's quite exciting. That's good.
Yep. So super strong, and then we've got Be'lakor, the Dark Master.
Oh, I love Be'lakor. I'm a Be'lakor fanboy.
It's understandable. He is cool. 14 wounds on a 4-up, 6-up. He's a wizard too. He is a war master, so he's auto Jenny. Pretty good as far as like what he does. 8 attacks with crit auto wounds, so not too terrible. And he's got his little +1 damage on the charge from his claw and his tail. That's fine. It's not that that's much of anything because it's only 2 attacks, but it's there.
Do we know yet if we can have multiple war masters in an army?
Yeah. If you have multiple war masters, you still have to pick one to be your general. One of them has to be your general.
I was just concerned that in the core rules they may have something that would say like you can only have one War Master per army.
No, as far as I know,
to force that decision.
From what we've seen, that's inference. Yeah. The Dark Master. Look, you take this guy for the Dark Master. Everything else on this scroll is just ipsum lorem text. Okay, like fine, whatever. I don't care. But he has the
8
Dark
attacks
Master.
and 8 attacks. Whatever. Ignore all that.
Okay, if you
But
take
he's going to turn off one of their units, and then he's going to run up to another unit and turn it off by killing it.
That's right.
He's going
to
right, and then first strike him and a chosen unit and a cav unit next to him.
That's
like
the other thing as well. It doesn't matter how undurable you are if both your units are picking up the thing you run into. Oh. It's
this
like 40k.
Is so good. He's so good. He's wild how good he is. I mean, as always, you know, he can be a little fragile. He's Italian, as we know, because he's a little fragile. And but he's still got his ethereal thing, but he's always 4-up, 6-up. That's just what he is. But yes, he still has Dark Master, which, by the way, the new ability system, this is a good point where we can mention, like, so Warhammer's just using the stack now. That's what it is. Very simplified version, but AoS is just using the stack, right? You declare an ability, any reactions? No? Okay, effect, right? And specifically here, you see exactly how that's going to work, where once per battle, enemy hero phase, pick a visible enemy unit to be the target, effect until the start of your next turn. Each time the target is picked to use an ability, period. And remember, everything's an ability. Moving's an ability, fighting's an ability, charging's an ability. All these things are abilities, right? Roll a dice as a reaction. On a 3-up, that ability has no effect.
It's interesting you say use the stack, because that now immediately makes me ask the question of, if they use an ability and it goes on the stack, as it were, can I still stack a reaction on top, get my reaction, then they roll a dice, get 3-up, and nothing happens?
Yeah, that's correct. Like
that's how I read it.
That's right. You can have multiple reactions. Yeah. So, like, for example, you could have, because it's the same thing. Like, you don't pass priority, right, until you're done with all of you could react to your own ability. So here you go. I declare an ability. Okay. Before I pass priority to you to put anything on the stack, I have something else I can use. I can react to my own ability, in other words, right? Because, like, let's say I had a reaction that says I get to ignore any non-core ability or something, right? Okay, or something like that. I don't know, whatever. I could use that on top, and then they can try to stack theirs over top of that thing. Because then I'll pass
sorry. What I meant in this circumstance was someone declares that they're about to activate and go to fight, because using your weapons to fight is an ability now in AoS 4, right? That's correct. It's a fight ability. So they go to fight, and that they choose to activate that. At which point, because of Dark Master, they're going to roll a dice. Do we roll it or do they roll it? We roll it. It doesn't. Either way, someone's rolling it.
Someone's rolling a die.
Yeah. But they choose to activate and put that ability on the stack. Where there's a question about timing as to when we know it's not going to happen. Because can I then use my reactions to pop a defensive buff, for example, do a reactive move if they're charging me, for example? Then I do my thing, that resolves, because it goes on the stack and then resolves down. So we resolve my reaction. Then they roll a dice and it's a 3-up. It doesn't. So I mean, can I accidentally blow a defensive buff? Do I have to hedge my bets? I guess we don't really know until we get a comprehensive FAQ of some kind explaining the timings and stuff.
Sure.
But I find that interesting because it leads to interesting choices that you can make and counterplay and interplay and stuff. And
absolutely.
I like it.
Yeah. Dadbot, I'm not saying Dark Master is reaction. It's causing reactions. Okay. Right. Because you now have a reaction to every ability they declare. And yes, you're all correct. This is a point I was going to make. It is interesting that you can no longer stop their spellcasting, because the way abilities work is I use all of if I have priority, okay, I use all of my abilities first. Then I pass priority to the only thing you could use during that time is reactions. So like I use an ability, you can react to it. You don't have any cool. For example, let's just make this very real. It's the enemy's hero phase. When I use this thing, right? That's when I use this thing. Okay? Once per battle, enemy hero phase. All right. They have priority, so they're getting to use abilities first. Okay? So they say,
it can never shut down spellcasting.
Correct. Because they're going to say, I have all my abilities to use first. I cast a spell. Okay, my reaction is I will attempt to unbind. right? They declare the spell, they roll the dice. My reaction is I attempt to unbind. That proceeds accordingly, right? And then they have completed all of their abilities in their hero phase.
Yeah.
And they say, okay, do you have any hero phase abilities? And you say, yes, I would like to Dark Master you. I'm going to Dark Master that unit, right? So the key is it can never shut off spellcasting.
Are we 100% certain that active player gets to do action, resolve, action, resolve, action, resolve, and there's not an alternating action thing?
No,
it'd be weird
sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, because combat is like that, right?
They talked about it.
Yep.
So that's so strange that they do it that way. If combat is quite literally alternating action back and forth, right?
So combat is divided into two basically subphases. It's the start of combat abilities, and then the activation. Okay, and so and then fights. And so combat phase will be something like this: active player uses all their combat phase abilities that aren't fights. The non-active player uses all their combat abilities, non-fights. And then the active player chooses their first fight unit. And so the combat phase is the only complicated unit. Every other phase seems to operate according to this. Active player first.
That feels so untidy compared to the fact that there's this really interesting back and forth interplay in the combat step, which makes AoS so exciting compared to 40k, where it's like, I just charge you across the board and alpha strike you, and that's kind of boring. And it's one of the things that draws me. It's like, I'm a combat player in 40k. I like orcs and demons and custodies and world eaters and stuff and blood angels. So that draws me to AoS. I'm like, oh, cool, back and forth, back and forth. It really matters about sequencing and choices matter. And they're like, but no other phase though. It'll all be active player does all their stuff and then you do your stuff. It's not a biggie, but it just feels inconsistent and kind of weird when the combat does that so well. But
yeah, I mean,
I think it's going to be more.
Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
I think it's going to be more egregious with things like casting spells on the enemy turn, because like the active player will actually have opportunity cost decisions to make as to like whether they use all their casts or they save some of their casts to unbind as a reaction to the off-turn player casting a spell in their hero phase.
Right.
Oh, so the wizard number only gives you actions and unbinds for the battle rounds, not for just your turn.
Well, it's for the turn, but the key is that it's my turn. You can cast a spell off turn. So let's say I have 2 total casts. Like I'm Be'lakor, right? I have 2 casts, and let's say Be'lakor is the only wizard on the table. If I use both of my casts to cast a spell, like I cast Enfeeble Foe and something else, okay, and then the enemy uses I say, okay, I've completed my hero phase abilities. Do you have any abilities? And they go to use theirs. If they use Unleash Spell, that's not really its name, but that's what everybody calls it, right? I cast off turn, basically. I can't unbind it, because I don't have any casts left to unbind.
You've used all of them at the start of the phase.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Right. So there's still very much like a sequencing and
so it's going to
thing,
create a bunch of really odd, like I think about redeploys. Redeploys are going to be in the same space. Like you're going to move all your stuff, and then you're going to respond. The non-active player will respond with a redeploy and could shut down lanes and stuff like that. After all, like there's no option to do it in between as a reaction. Like it's all pushed to the end of the phase, and counter charges are going to be the same way. It's going to be really interesting just from an action economy. Like managing that will actually be the skill test.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the sound of that because it gives agency to the player who's not taking the turn at the moment, which is something that Warhammer has historically always had a problem with. And like the latest Horus Heresy does a good job of fixing that with like the reactions system. Strats only half fix it in 40k. They're so close to getting there, but they'll never really commit. So this sort of stuff is good. Like reactive moves and stuff seem to be one of the things that make me most excited to play AoS for.
Absolutely. And by the way, his spell rules. His spell like super rules. It like super
That's
totally
good.
rules. -1 to hit, and they can't score critical hits is a wildly strong spell. That's so freaking good. And an 18-inch range, by the way. Like that spell is just really good. Really, really, really good. Hey, look, there's a spell that Tzeentch thing would work against, because that's actually a spell you cast on someone else. That's good enough to cast. How about that? Hey, okay, cool.
What you mean? You mean the thing that stops mortal wounds? That one?
Yeah. Well, it's a 4 to. Isn't it a full spell ignore?
No, it's mortal wounds.
Oh
shield,
God, you're right. Nope. Yep. Never mind. It's
I thought you were doing a bit to point out how bad it is because it only affects mortal wounds.
I just literally had it wrong. I just
'Cause
literally had it wrong.
it should be similar to the old brass collar, right? Where it
Yeah.
just bluffs a thing and gives you a blood point. Because that was, yeah.
Nope,
It
you're
should
right.
blanket,
I'm
but
sorry.
it doesn't.
Never mind. I could see it continues to be worthless.
Yeah, it's worse than you even think. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. All right. Demon Prince, my old favorite. I love a Demon Prince. I have lots of Demon Princes. I have so many Demon Princes. And yeah, seems fine. What I love about the Demon Prince is honestly that Ruinous Favor. It's neat that you can just trigger the Eye of the Gods for a unit on a 3-up. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Otherwise,
So can I have 3 Demon Princes, put all 3 of them onto 1 Demon Prince, then fire them off into the opponent? Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, theoretically, because there's no limiters here. There's no keywords or once per that would stop it from happening. So
I'm
yes,
going to stack 3 of them onto some cultists, onto like a 60-point cultist squad. That also explodes and does mortal wounds when they die, and then just shoot them into the opponent. It's going to be great.
That seems completely doable. Maybe you get lucky and you get like a +1 rend, and then you roll a 6 and you choose +1 rend.
I was going to say triple +1 rend. I'm just going to have -3 rend on some cultists and just like chopping people up.
Absolutely. Let's go.
Do we have any core rules acknowledgments that they like the same named abilities don't stack? Do we know about anything like that yet?
We don't know, but we don't know. You're saying like if I took this mark twice, or if I took this result twice, the slaughterer's
right.
Might, yeah, I don't know.
Right.
No.
Like it's not here in the rules clarification text for the ability, but I wonder if something like that might be in the core rules.
There was
like,
a good chance they take it out, right? Look at how like 40, because obviously 40k and AoS they do share a lot of some sensibilities, don't they? And stacking stuff has been a thing that Warhammer 40k has dropped for like 2 or 3 editions now. So it's kind of the writing is on the wall that AoS will one day be like, sorry, you can't stack +3 rend anymore, which sounds sad to me because it's not. It's fun.
Well, we might be able to do it, just you can't do the same named abilities.
Same abilities,
like
sure.
Oftentimes it's just spamming abilities.
Yeah. The other upside is that Demon Princes are currently absolutely terrible in all but 1 army in 40k, so it's really nice to see them actually be reasonably data sheeted here. Points dependent, of course. If they're 220 points each, they're obviously like awful, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. The Eye of the Gods does say they can stack in the ability itself, and you can also reroll on that table. And yes, we know that passive abilities don't stack. Like multiple passive abilities don't stack, so you can't like put the same aura around people and have the same aura trigger twice. We know that, right? But yes, I forgot it does say in there that you can benefit from
the same effect can be applied multiple times to a unit. There
you go.
Okay.
Yep.
So. Does any of them give crit? No, they don't give crit, do they? No. Okay.
Ward 6, Ward 5, +1 to hit, and +1 to rend. So,
can I get 4 instances of Ward 6 and then roll a dice for each point of damage to try and get us? I assume that doesn't work.
No, multiple wards don't work.
But if they already, and I used to do that.
Sure, you can turn the Ward 6 into a Ward 5
if
you give them Ward 6, which is super strong as it is. Let's talk about Chaos Knights. Now with their newly minted 4 health. 3-up save, 3 attacks on 3s, 1 rend, 1 damage.
That's so much meat.
Seems pretty good.
That's so much meat. That's 20 wounds.
And you give them a Ward 6 immediately with a Demon Prince and then shoot them into the opponent. That's a durable box of men, right? Ish.
Absolutely.
Again,
it is a very durable box of meat. It's a big bag of meat. My problem is, as with always with knights, is I'm not sure, like, on the charge, pretty decent, because they're Rend 2 damage too. Off the charge, pillow-fisted, they ain't fighting their way out of anything. Like, that will still be the case. Great to see them finally hit on a 3-up. Like, that is it's a great thing.
Don't forget, these are also going to be -1 to be wounded. So the -1 to be wounded, 6 up, feel no pain, plus the thing. And then you're also going to 3d6 charge them around your own wall. That's
hopefully, like, if there's anything, this is what you want to mark Khorne, right? Because let's go to 4 attacks each. Because, like, base, my problem is, again, off turn, like, these guys, the classic problem with Chaos Knights has always been if they don't break the unit they charge into. They live and die by the charge.
They stay there forever.
They stay there forever.
I was going to say, making them more killy on the charge means you have to kill the thing you touch, because it doesn't undo the problem of if you don't, you're still sat there being, because now you've got 2 buffs that don't work.
Right. Right,
know?
But
exactly.
but it
correct.
does give you a better chance because like
Yes,
they are
absolutely.
non-functional if they're not charging, so that gives you a
But
better
I
chance.
think they
of breaking.
definitely. I mean, again, I'm coming from a different space in this, so please don't get me wrong. But there's a function if there's just like a wall of 4 wounds, 6 up, feel no pain, -1 to be wounded guys. Charge in, kill half a unit, don't quite kill it, and now they're just sat across an objective, and you're just like layering stuff behind. Like it does seem like a good screen / wall.
Oh, as a mobile pinning unit, yeah, that could be great.
Yeah,
you just can't
pinning,
rely
there
on
we
them for
go.
damage.
There we
Yes.
go. Yeah, sure.
I'm super down for that. Like I think we just need to really make sure we understand
Set expectations.
set expectations. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying like you look at that and you like in your brain you're always going to imagine they're on the charge, right? When people do the math in their head when they look at this, they're like they always imagine the best case scenario. Okay? They're like, yeah, I'm totally going to be rend 2, damage 2, kill everything, blah blah blah, but it's like maybe sometimes that'll happen and it'll be good. But off of that, you're 16 attacks on 3s and 3s, rend 1, damage 1, which means you probably amount to about 3 or 4 damage, right?
They had the same rule in 3, right? The same on the charge thing.
Basically.
Yeah,
but they hit on 4s, which
yeah. My
is a material
very
difference.
first game of AoS, I charged some knights with some poxwalkers or whatever they're called, plague bearers, and then the knights just stuck fighting plague bearers for the rest of the game, and I was like, oh, they don't seem so tough. Yeah, similar situation.
Yep, exactly. So they're gonna have to pick their target very carefully, right? Because if you let them get bogged down, then they're there forever. That's the problem. Okay.
What's the new rule? Because obviously all the weapon sheets don't have ranges on them anymore. What's the engagement range rules
Just
for
3
AoS
inches.
4?
It's always 3 inches.
Everything
is just 3. Okay, so you aren't fighting for the back of a base or anything like that. It's just
it becomes very easy to get your 5 cav in, right? Because you can just 3 and 2, whatever, they're fine.
Yeah, did they go to as big as 10? Can you reinforce these?
You can reinforce them. Yeah,
you can reinforce.
Yeah, okay. So because 10 might be a push then to get them all in, but yeah.
40 wounds on a 3-up, 6-up.
That's what I'm thinking. Like,
wound.
and they also have such a big footprint. We got 10 of them. They're just like it's just literally a wall. Here's my endless spell of men on horseback. You know?
Yeah. So very cool. And then the Dark Oath Marauders. Yep, there they are. If you're looking for your mortal wound bomb, here you go. Glorious Death. While this unit is wholly within 12 inches of any friendly Dark Oath heroes, each time a model in this unit is slain by a combat attack, and that model was in combat with the attacking unit, roll a die on a 5-up, inflict 1 mortal damage on the attacking unit after the fight ability has been resolved. So
that's going to be rough keeping those wholly within 12 with a charge.
Maybe. I mean, it's
wholly within is a bit brutal. Yeah. Every time I see the words "wholly within," I wince a little bit. I'm like, that means I'm probably I'm gonna struggle to get this ability off.
Yeah, like having played Night Haunt in the prior edition, almost all the abilities were wholly within 12. Get X ability, and like keeping a block of 10 or 20 in that with pile-ins, with charges, like that is not good. Like that is difficult.
Yeah. Okay. That is correct, Ghost Mutton. The notable change that is worth mentioning here about the heavy armored chaos guys is this is like the first time in basically AoS that your chaos knights don't have your 5-up against mortal damage anymore. They have lost that. And so theoretically so have chaos warriors and everybody else who had that.
Yeah, so they've moved a shield from a mortal wound protection to an extra wound, right? At least on the knights.
On the knights, yeah.
Does that mean that chaos warriors are going to be 3 wounds each or whatever?
I guess we'll see.
What is because they got the Vanguard sheet is in the article, right? And it shows them at 2 wounds. But
yeah, and I suspect that will probably be the same. I don't think
that's where Liberators sit, right? Like base Liberators sit at 2 health. Yeah, there's no way that Chaos Warriors will move to 3 then. Like their setup is like a dark equivalent of the Liberator.
So you're telling me the shields do nothing?
Correct. The goggles,
it gives them a 3-up
do
save.
nothing. Yeah, that's what it does.
Oh, the 3-up save. Sure, yeah.
Fair answer. Okay.
Neg 1 to wound. That's what it gives them. Neg 1 to wound.
Yeah, no, that's just Nurgle's. That's just Nurgle's play.
They're Nurgle shields. Yeah, those are Nurgle shields. Yeah.
All right, now let's get depressed. Okay, Ironjaws. Here we go. So, I mean, S2D looks pretty good. That's the short answer of it. All right, let's talk Ironjaws.
I haven't read this yet, so this is completely new to me.
All right, so Okay, Mighty Destroyers, not what it used to be. And look, I saw some people complaining on Twitter and stuff, okay, about like, oh, they had so much free movement.
For the layman, I'd love to know, what did it used to be?
Okay. What Mighty Destroyers used to be was basically an ability that allowed a unit to move in the hero phase. So it could take a full move. And what people are complaining about is that you could take your cabbage, your mega boss on Mach Russia, or a big unit of pigs, and basically hero phase move them, then normal move them. So they're just covering immense parts of the board. In fact, the mega boss also had an ability called Fastum, right? That was like, so you could get 36 inches across the board.
That's a fast cabbage.
It's a fast cabbage. He's rolling, baby. He keeps rolling. What? Dad bod, I cannot disagree with you more. Get this garbage out of my army. Out of my game. I hate this stupid ability. But I'm willing to let it exist in Khorne because somehow Khorne has become the Johnny tactician's thinking man's army. Exactly appropriate. Okay.
So what is this? Everyone in the AoS community has been talking about murder lust for the last 4 hours while I've been watching House of Dragons and cooking dinner.
Correct.
Can someone explain to me what this is colloquially referring to? Are we talking about murder rolls?
We're talking no. We're talking about murder lust. So in Khorne, from your blood tithe table, your 1 point ability. Well, technically it can be like 1, 2, 3 because it's
move. Oh, sure.
It's your 3 inch.
Move,
technically, it's your D6 inch move, I guess, or whatever.
Yes, you pick up 3 units, 1 point per unit. Yes. Yeah, okay.
Yes. Right.
Hang on. Why don't people like this? Because that's one of the bits that I'm like, look how cool Khorne are.
Johnny loves that. Johnny loves it, okay? Because it's a cheaty ability that just like lets you do goofball stuff where you can like Tokyo drift into combat, shut down a charge. People think they have a lane, but nope. Here comes Khorne, just like
the problem,
and they just slide in by an inch and shut off a unit, right?
Here's my Mortal Boon cultists, just like they're in you now. Fight these, will you?
Yeah. It's
a Johnny ability. Ironjaws have historically been the stereotypical Gruul Timmy army.
Sure. It's what everyone. But it's really funny when I announced on Twitter that I'm like, oh, I think I'm gonna Blades of Khorne with my first time. I'm gonna complete to a 2,000 point. But no, Vince, they're not what you think they are. They aren't running. I'd already done my research. Like, no, they're not running in. They drag people out. They move screens. They move out of phase. They fight in the hero phase.
Yeah.
These guys are doing. One of them has a 7-inch engagement range and can walk into combat with you. Like, these guys are so much fun for being the tricksy little pixies of the combat step.
They are just yes, they are little Mr. and Mrs. Trixies. Yes, that is Khorne.
So maybe I need to collect Ironjaws. What you're saying?
Well, I mean, they apparently they've said, hey, Khorne players, and you're exactly right, Tom. What I always loved about my Ironjaws was they were the Gruul Timmy army, right? That's what it let me do.
Yes.
And that is not what is on offer in this article.
I am shocked that like the AoS community, because I saw other people moan about this earlier on socials.
Yeah.
Are like, oh, I don't want my melee army to have a more cerebral element, even the smallest amount, which is moving 3 inches in a phase.
I'm okay with it being in Khorne. I can go over there where I don't have to pay attention to it. I don't have to play it. It's not my army. This is my army, okay? These are my Ironjaws right there. And when I got into Ironjaws to crump, okay? I didn't get in here to do like some careful tactical, I moved 3 inches. No, I moved 3 inches. Whoa, we both shot you off each other's things.
I love that
stuff.
stuff.
We all do nothing. Like,
I'm
if I wanted to play blue magic, I'd play blue magic. I'm not. I'm playing red-green, okay? I didn't get in a red-green game to start counterspelling.
When you get to the highest level of magical 5D chess that I play, obviously,
of course,
all magic is blue magic. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm the player that will tell you, no, sorry, orcs do crump, but they crump in a way that applies pressure in a methodical and tactical way. I love orcs and 40k. They're one of my favorite armies to play. So, like, the idea that I wasn't that keen on orcs in AoS simply because they were like, here's my 4 damage big stick and I'm going to hit you with it and it might wipe a squad or whatever. Now that you're telling me they're getting some of the Khorne tricks,
yeah.
Oh,
they're getting a Khorne trick.
I say a singular.
A Khorne trick.
The best one. The best one. Granted, they're getting a Khorne trick, and we're not sure they can even crump anymore
from the evidence that we're
Oh,
getting.
okay.
That's the problem.
The other side to this coin is that it makes me very scared that I'm going to get my Khorne faction focused. They no longer have murder lust. They no longer have blood points, and they're just because I don't know if you guys know the World Eaters rules for 40k, where you roll some dice, and if you get some triples, you can do some stuff. It is dreadful. You play a little game of Yahtzee, and you just feel miserable because you have it's no agency. It's like, oh, I got the thing that does the thing I wanted it to do. Maybe it's awful. So I'm terrified that they're going to give the cool rules to the orcs.
I wouldn't worry too bad. Here's the thing. I see some people defending this. I mean, it's basically plus 3 inches to move, and that's fairly straightforward rule. It's very much not. It's very much not that, Infinite DM. This is a skill test ability, okay? Because your actual good use of this is to slide into combat and shut off somebody who thought they were going to be able to charge. Because they're going to play a battle. They're going to call a battle tactic that says, I need to move somewhere, do something, do this thing. I have done with my abilities. Your abilities. I Mighty Destroyers my guys 3 inches and shut off your battle tactic. Ha. Got you. Tricked you. That's what this is. It is a very skill testing ability. I'm not... it is actually an incredibly powerful, potent ability. I don't want it. I just want to be able to run my little happy orcs around, okay, and punch people.
You can an extra 3 inches.
Oh, great, that's what I want. With my army of
called this?
With my army of 4-inch move people. Yeah.
Can you tell me what? Well, there you go. Go up to 7. The blessed number is quite big.
One unit gets a 7. Everybody else is 4. That's the problem.
Why is it called Mighty Destroyers? What is up with these naming conventions of taking classically named things and then being like, well, we've got a new rule, so we might just have to attach them because they don't.
Yeah, they just wanted to keep this name, but exactly, this is a ship of Theseus.
It's more like take an extra step.
Yeah,
it's the Mighty Destroyers of this. It triggers Mighty Destroyers. Is what this is, like the broom.
Yeah,
anyway,
the name made sense when it was running across the board, doing fun stuff, and fighting.
I feel like I've derailed it by defending it.
You're okay. I get why people like it.
It's still bad. You don't have to worry. And again, it's not bad. To be clear, it's not bad. But it is the only ability they get, other than the calling the wog.
The once per battle wog. Yeah.
So your special ability for your entire army is 3-inch move in the hero phase.
Of 1 unit.
I didn't realize the war was once per battle. I read it earlier. I was like, that seems while we were talking. And I was like, yeah, that's all right.
Once per battle, 18 inches within the person calling it.
Right.
Wholly within. Once per battle. So
for the audience at home who don't care much about 40k though, the war in 40k is 1 whole turn, whole army, run and charge, +1 strength, +1 attack, and then one of the sub factions you get 2 wars. It is arguably too good, and it is so impactful, and it makes orcs the highest pressure. In 40k, orcs are you are going to play the game on my terms. I will engage you when I want to, and you have no say in that matter. And then to see it be reduced in AoS to 1 unit.
I want to address something in the comments. Massimo Rowley said, your special ability is 3+ save. Oh, is it? Is that the Stormcast special ability? Because they have a base 3+ save and
lots of people
everything
do.
else.
So does S2D and a bunch of things. Yeah. Who cares? It's fine. It's nothing. That's nothing. You'll go against a heavy mortal damage army and get shredded to pieces. That's what that's gonna be. Okay.
That war is as a 40k orc enthusiast. That war is I guess pathetic is probably an accurate word if I'm honest.
It's weaker than it was for sure.
What was it before?
At least it was the whole board. It was still the same thing. It was +1 a charge and +1 rend before.
Right.
But it was board wide.
The whole board.
Sure, which makes sense. It's a war. The whole army should be warring.
Everybody's wawing. Yes, that's the whole point. Waws carry. It's like the wave at a sports game. It makes its way around. You get to participate in the wave even if you're more than 18 feet away from the guy who started the wave. Okay,
sometimes you're just getting hit by the wave. The wave is hitting you, and you're just part of it now.
Yeah, that's right.
It sounds more like a hunt ability to me. The Ironjaws war sounds like the hunt in 40 has a hunt detachment. They hunt on one thing. It sounds like a hunting ability. I wouldn't be surprised if in development at some point this was a hunting ability for some form of orcs, and they're like, okay, just make that the war, whatever.
That's just the war now. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can stack an
And
attack here.
And it's your turn only.
It is your turn only.
It's your turn only.
Yeah.
So it's like
for the rest of that, for the rest of your turn, yes. So you get this 1 out of the 10 turns in the game.
One big aura on your turn.
You have Natural Disaster, where if you make an unmodified charge roll of 8+ for a friendly non-hero Ironjaws unit, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of that unit's melee weapons for the rest of that turn. Perfectly fine. As it goes, like, that's okay. Again, attack stacking is going to be a thing in this army. You know, I can talk about Ironjaws a little bit. I have seen Ironjaws play, so I can talk about it a little bit. I got to watch this army play, and attack stacking is definitely a thing, but it is a very different army now. Okay.
That's also remarkably better than the sub-faction one we just looked at for slaves.
It really is, yes. Remarkably. Like, it's better. No doubt about it.
Hey, I played Nipont. I played the slot machine. I know how that works. Like, you roll dice and hope to beat the roll 9s, win the game. But you can't base an army plan on that. Like, that's not how that works. And this is, by the way, non-monster.
No, non-hero.
Is it non-hero?
So your mega bosses can't get it, neither can your big pig.
Yeah, big pig or the
pig.
Yeah.
Do they have any monsters that aren't hero?
Yeah, they have now, because there's a
You're right.
There is a non-hero big pig. You can take the pig just as a monster. The big pig is just a monster. Yeah. So that's fine. And then there's a Grunt, a Stampede, when an Iron Fist, and a Weird Fist, and we'll see what those do in the future. Bash 'em Lads lets you give crit 2 hits to somebody. Here's a bright spot, which is Gordrak. He's better. That's it. I'm not going to go into all the reasons, but he's better.
Yeah, I mean, he gives a log
points dependent. He's playable.
Like being on an army-wide 4+ to hit, and that's the other thing that I think we haven't talked about is that Ironjaws are now army-wide 4+ to hit because of orc profiling or whatever you want to do in the new edition. And so what that means is that, like, inherently their damage has went down. Brutes used to be on 2s and 2s regularly. Now they're on 4s and 3s.
That's a massive
like that is
this Gordrak has a +1 to hit aura, right? So I guess the whole army is going to be dependent upon being within war boss auras and stuff. That's probably like a
And guess what? It's Cornigan, right? Like, you're playing the dance of staying within auras, and like it becomes this weird Johnny, like, tactical lacking the words, not endurance army, but attrition army. Like, that's what it seems like it's going to be with that 3+ save, which is not what Ironjaws are.
Well, they are now.
Indeed.
Times are changing, as Bob Dylan once said.
Yep. And obviously strength from victory is a lot weaker, but that's fine. Okay. The War Chanter, he's a priest. And that's it. That's what he does. Does nothing in melee. He is just a priest. He sits around and hopefully gets off some kind of prayer. Theoretically, a prayer that probably gives you +1 damage for that particular turn.
Can you create ritual points outside of the abilities that are on the cleric sheets?
Yeah, you can. Well, you can pray off. Wait, can you build up your prayer points? Is that what you're asking? You can pray off turn. Yeah, you can pray off turn.
So you can begin to accumulate points there, and then either spend them off turn or save them. I was just going to say his actual ability to generate them on his character sheet seems quite bad considering his profile. I didn't realize you can obviously pray to get them. That makes sense.
Yeah. Now, let me talk about why I see a lot of people excited about him being a priest. Let me go ahead and tamp down your expectations, okay? I'm about to rain on your parade.
It's switched. I'm good Vince, you're bad Vince now.
Yeah, I am about to ruin this man's whole day if you like Ironjaws. Okay, I want you all to think about how army construction works now. This is something we haven't talked about a lot, but obviously it's out there. They've talked about this, okay? Yeah. The way army construction works now is you take a hero, okay? And that hero can then have units underneath them. If it's the general, it's 4. If it's anybody else, it's 3. Right? And that becomes a regiment. You repeat. Take another hero. Take some kind of regiment. So on and so forth.
Every hero is essentially a drop in your army.
And then every one of those regiments is a drop. Okay? So in armies where you wanted lots of little dumb utility buff heroes, enjoy never having the choice to go first. Because you will need to take a bunch of little floating dum-dums with no regiment underneath them. Okay? Unless the army has the ability to pack those little utility heroes into one of the other heroes' regiments. Okay? But if
and
the
we
army...
don't know how diffuse that is.
Correct. So if an army lacks that ability, then guess what? You're just a million drops. And everybody beats you and gets the choice. Okay? So, if Ironjaws don't have the ability to take War Chanters in there, then you are just a million drops in this army. Okay? And
because
so,
you're going to want somebody that's punchy. You're going to want probably another utility hero or wizard.
Yep.
Isn't it a case that like perhaps you're thinking of it as in the current AoS form, and that it like preparing to go second is just a valid thing to have to do with certain armies?
It's more that they'll make you go other way around. They'll make you go first every time.
Yeah, because you're a melee army. And
you're
so
going to have melee army. You just go first.
Because I was just sat here thinking, yeah, they can go first and walk towards me. Like, this seems great.
Yeah.
Right. And exactly. They're not going to do anything. They have no range, so they have no threat.
But if you're slaves to darkness, you got -1 to wound army wide. You just walk onto the objectives and you're loving life. I know Ironjaws don't get much out of that.
Yeah, yeah. If you're S2D and you're all Nurgle marked, yeah, sure, go up there and alpha bunker. It's a valid strat, right?
But that's the point, is that the S2D can look at it and go, sure, I'll go first. Or sure, you need to go first. They get the choice. Yeah. And so it'll always be in their favor.
They might have a piddly load of... You can go multiple drops, though, depending on like what the characters end up looking like, right, in the sheets and stuff. But
yeah, and exactly what Cyrus said. Ironjaws do not want to go first anymore. Not at all. Because there's no getting across the table. 3-inch movement ain't getting you across the table. You're not alpha striking anybody, right?
And if you're on a 4 base... Yeah, if you're 4 move, like, you're playing dwarves. You're playing dwarves with no artillery.
And battle tactics will be really hard for you, okay? Like, because you're going to have to make bad choices about what you do.
Have you seen the rest of the tomes? Are people like... We haven't, because what I'm thinking is it might just be that Ironjaws end up being like a pig army, or you are boar riders, because you need the movement, and like...
Sure.
And like, a lot of these sheets just become completely unplayable because of these sort of issues, right?
Yeah, I mean... You can, I mean, like, you look here, Archer DT, it looks like the +1 damage has been baked into units now, so War Chanters are no longer required for the army to work. No. No. That is not correct. Absolutely not. Yes, these guys got better, okay? Like, Brutes are now base damage too, which is awesome. I got to watch one of these games, and Brutes are good. Like, they're legitimately good, but they have the same problem they always have, which is they're a 4-inch move unit. And, like, yeah, 3-up save is good until anything has mortal wounds on you, and you're 15 wounds. That's it. You're dead pretty fast, right? But Brutes are good. I like Brutes. I think Brutes rule. They're just very fragile in how they're going to work out. And Kill a Beat is +1 to damage for the rest of that turn. Right, so it's very limited. Like, it's not happening off turn. It doesn't last. But Brutes are good. You know, Brutes are good. Like, straight up, Brutes are good. They're just very easy to play around because they're going to walk around very slowly. So you've got to be spending points on them to, like, redeploy them, countercharge with them, all that kind of stuff. Like, that's going to be...
It'll be interesting to see if there's a 3d6 charge in the army.
It's called Kragnos.
Ugh.
There's also a chance that, again, like you, not just you guys, but me too, we think in the confines of what we already know. It could be that it comes out and the Brutes are also incredibly cheap, and the army is now a Horde army, like a true Horde army. And now no one owns enough models. This happened in 40k. Both Admech and Sisters just became Horde armies overnight with edition change. Two of the most expensive lines in the whole range as well. And it's just like, oh, okay. Like, did you know if you buy the Admech Combat Patrol right now, you have to buy more than 7 of them if you want to fill a 2,000 point force out of those boxes? Custodes is 2 boxes. Admech is 7. It's insane. Absolutely insane. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it might be that, again, points might mean that you've got a very slow-moving not that durable army in theory, but you just have a lot of it because that's an old orc thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, brutes straight up killers. Don't get me wrong. I am impressed with these guys' hitting ability, right? Like if you like, especially against infantry, they're gonna absolutely do some work. I mean, 4s and 3s is a rough base profile, but they can easily get up to like 4 attacks, 5 attacks, 6 attacks. So, you know, there's I'm sure there's plenty of attack bonuses for them. And you know, even on 4s to hit, if you're swinging in with 5, 6 attacks, that's pretty great, right?
Yeah, 20 attacks. That is.
So, but it's 4s and 3s base, right? Like so there you go. And the controllability is cool. I like brutes. I think they are good. I watched.
That ability is sick. That ability is
it really
very
is.
cool.
UMesson's great. I got to watch brutes work, and I was impressed by them, but they died also quite easily to a snapback. Like that's what happened. They went in, killed the thing they were doing, and then just got lifted.
Did Ironjaws have much recursion last time around?
No. They
Zero
are a
recursion.
recursion-less army. 0 recursion.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, I understand, Ghostmon. We're going to do that. Don't worry. And then the Maul Grunted with Hack and Crew. That's fine. This is the monster version of them. It's fine. But easier momentum building. That's cool.
How are you guys? Because obviously we now know, don't we, that the orc hordes have been split.
Yeah. They did say that
They
like,
said
they are
that
two
in the
separate
article.
armies. There's no more Big Wa, right?
Yeah, how are you guys on that? Because again, I have no opinion on this because I didn't play any orcs.
It
but-
doesn't bother me at all.
I'm completely here for it. I play Ironjaws. I don't play whatever those stinky swamp bogglers are. Get the hell out of my
Yeah.
book.
Oh, I forget.
Yeah.
Also, they deleted the third rung as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
One of the
Yeah.
clans is gone forever,
Yeah.
and the other one isn't a very nice model range, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, my son plays Ironjaws, and before I knew any of the new like release information, I was planning on picking up and running. I keep saying swamp. I'm thinking swamp bogglers. Clearly, that's not their real name. I was planning on running Cruel Boys for a doubles event with him this fall. So it doesn't bother me. It'll be interesting to see like the most effective Ironjaws armies that I saw played at the end of the last edition were Big Wa. Big Wa and a mix of both armies. And so now I am concerned about unit selection in the new isolated world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also just think it's a shame when they reduce like options. I love it when there's like options to splash and take weird tech picks and stuff when you can like play allies and things. And it seems like again in both game systems they're going further and further towards trying to limit that down and split things out. And it's a shame in that regard, I guess.
They got to beat up Johnny. Absolutely. All right. Cool. And there you go. That's all the faction focuses. Boy, I didn't intend to talk about them too much, but boy, did we. Boy, howdy, did we.
We've got a newbie here who's excited and asking questions, and also
no, these are good questions. This is a great discussion. Yeah, I mean, here's my I'll give you my summary. My experience with Ironjaws watching them was I was not excited for my army. That's what I'll tell you. Okay.
I'm joining you when we get the corn rules.
So yeah. But hey,
who's next? Who's next? Is it Sylvaneth next? Okay.
Sylvaneth next. Yeah. This was the one today. Yeah. Sylvaneth, and then I assume Khorne will actually finish us out. That should be the last one. Khorne has traditionally been the last. I don't know why. It's just always the last one they do.
They're the classic AoS villain, aren't they? Weren't they the first edition bad guys?
Yeah. They just every time they do a reveal, it's always like every last time we did this, Khorne was the last two. I don't know why it is. Just so.
When was the last time we got a new Khorne model? For AoS?
Those are ritualists last edition.
Oh,
yeah.
On
the foot ritualist.
the gorgeous one on the plinth. So
and we got the Claws of Karnak as well for Warcry.
Yeah.
Which is currently an AoS model, but for how long, right?
Sure.
For how long will those things last?
I hope so, because I have 2 boxes of them that I was painting up for 1,000-point cordless. So I hope so.
Yeah, I love the idea, but I don't think those things are long for this world with the way GW are going, right?
Yeah, to be clear, both these guys and the other ones are in the same index. The Swamp Bogglers and the Ironjaws are in the same index, but they're completely separate armies now. It's just they happen to be in one book.
I'm just going to quickly refuel my water whilst you clear up chats.
Questions. Sounds good. Let's do it. Okay. All right. The momentum rule looks sane and doable, said Eric Dottie. I agree, Eric. And I do think it's a much better momentum rule than what we had again. Let's see. I do hope they get their own completely separate battle tomes once we get books. So that would be cool. And yeah, I mean, look, I'm certainly going to play my Ironjaws. I'm just scared of what it's going to be playing those Ironjaws in a world with these other things that we've seen. That's what I'll say.
It breaks my heart for my son, who wanted Timmy, right? Like that's why he got him.
Yeah.
He is not going to get that experience now.
Yeah. I am excited though that Gordrak seems playable for the first time ever. Of course, points dependent. So that's nice.
Yeah.
That is a bright spot. And I'm excited that brutes look good. It's just a question of like the entire way this army plays clearly is going to feel very different if you're especially if you're relying on that. Can you redeploy for +2 momentum? Because if you run, you use that. I think the answer is yes.
If redeploys are runs in the new rules, then yes.
Yeah, I don't. Well, they showed redeploy at some point. I just can't remember what. I can't remember if it has the keyword. I mean, if it has the keyword, then yes.
Well, like it did on the website, but I'm not convinced until we see it in the core rules.
Sure.
Of one way or the other.
Yeah. How do games feel with a change to prio? Is it noticeable? You'll have to explain what you mean, Dadbot. I'm happy to explain based on what I played, but
Vince, I'm assuming what he's saying. I'm assuming what he's saying there is that the change of not double turning, like choosing not to double turn with the battle tactics situation.
0% different.
Like, okay.
0%
Can you unpack that a little bit?
Sure. You will very much still double turn somebody 1 into 2 if you think you're going to break their back, or even just get a good advantage. You don't need the battle tactic. It turns you into the underdog, and then you can So like, sure, like I'll take the. This is why that priority of like who gets to go first is such a big deal, right? I'm going to make you go first. You do nothing and put yourself in a bad position because you stretch to do a battle tactic that's hard. Then I am in pole position. I reposition, get every charge I want, right? And you're strained at this point to keep up with me. I win. Going into 2, I'll take the double. I'll break your back or at least do so much damage to you that it becomes nearly impossible for you to recover. And yet, now I'm the underdog going forward.
So going into turn 3, you have actually the bennies. You have
Correct.
the benefits going into turn 3, and they don't have even have an army
The underdog
left.
gives you bonus CP, is that correct?
Bonus CP plus bonuses in some of each mission has a bonus for the underdog as well. So I have I have broken you down, double turned you. I have a huge advantage over you at this point in the game state, and now I'm the underdog.
Cool.
It does sound like perhaps that catch-up mechanic was not quite thought out.
Yeah, like I when we get there, I'm going to have a lot to talk about when it comes to that particular thing. Okay.
Interesting.
So, there you go. Like, that's my feeling on the thing. You asked for my feeling, that's my thing. I mean, I legitimately don't think it means anything in tournaments. I really don't. Comment on the missing IJ Spearhead. They'll release one eventually.
When the book drops, they'll drop a Spearhead.
Yeah, it'll come out with the book.
Fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have a new model in it. That's my theory. That's why it's not here.
Yeah.
No, maybe.
Like some infantry, some troops, some character.
You're
something
saying a new
that's
unit.
Yeah, something that's not out yet. So they're not going to show it off. They're not going to stick it in the article. It's just something for later in the release. That's my theory.
Yeah,
maybe.
Doc Raven says, but you lose points for the turn because the total score of the game. Yeah, like who cares? Like you don't get your battle tactic that turn, which who cares?
Guess
like,
what?
It's 4 points.
They don't have units, so they're not getting battle tactics for the rest of the game.
I think what they meant by tournament. Yeah, I think
They're
what
dead.
chat might meant by tournaments is that your general strength of schedule. So, like, if you're going to be, if you're planning to be 5-0 at the end of the event, you want the max amount of battle points or VP or whatever it's called in AoS.
Yeah.
So, dropping those points might damage your standings. But as someone who just plays for a positive
everybody's
record,
doing it, right? Unless it's the right
Yeah.
play pattern, is to drop it on 2 or drop it on 3, and everybody just goes 4 out of 5 on battle tactics, takes the double, breaks the enemy's back, and then sweeps out on the underdog to win. And that's just like, and everybody basically at the top is doing that play pattern. Then who cares? You've cost yourself nothing, right?
But then the one big brain person, I'm not saying I will, but me, they're like, no, I'm scoring 5 battle attacks. You can have your turn with my
Right.
-1 to wound Chaos Warriors.
And if that's the case, arguably you've played the harder game. You've played the harder schedule because you didn't choose to do the optimum. If it is the optimum play pattern, to do the optimum play pattern, you've chosen to take the risk.
Tom, are you trying to say that GW have built this in as a reward for the truly playing?
I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that they have that kind of game design in them, but we'll see.
If I'm honest, that people often moan about how comp play ruins design of the wider games of GW, which there's elements I agree with, elements I don't. But if the fact that this sounds worse on a on a minor level of one game with my friend on a Thursday evening or whatever, where I'm just like, yeah, I'll take a double turn, wreck you, I'll be down points, but I still win. That sounds worse. The fact that it affects tournaments is a thing that we can obviously converse and discuss and conjecture about, but it's much worse if it just makes your average game worse, where the double turn is now more backbreaking because I took a double turn and I've got bonuses in the mission. That doesn't sound like a good idea at all.
Yep. Yeah. Take the big bonus to get more bonuses is really a play pattern. I mean, not great.
That is actually it's a very easy clause to add to an errata.
Sure.
And you also may not gain underdog bonuses for the rest of the game.
Sure.
Yeah, that is an easy fix.
That would be a huge deal because that's
actually kind of brutal, right?
Right.
You take the second turn,
it's a double turn.
Yeah. Come on, AoS players have been telling me for the last 4 or 5 years, been back into Warhammer, that double turn's not as big a deal as people make it out to be, and here we are just saying, nah, double turn them and win.
Well, the good generals will plan around it. Like a good general will try to give away the double at every instance possible. So late in the game, particularly 2 into 3, you can break their back. Like the 2 into 3 is the double turn that you want.
Sure.
Sure.
So most people will, good generals will mitigate it and play around it to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
All right.
And 4 is giving you a lot of agency in other people's turns anyway. So arguably, it's not as bad as 40k players claim it is.
I wanna. We've already thrown out all our segments. This is all still allegedly news. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Who cares? It's fine. We're so deep into it. We're an hour and 50 minutes in. It'd feel weird to do a pick of the week in hobby time now. That would be completely ridiculous.
Hey, thanks for those of you that have, the 200, 300, 260 that have stuck with it so far.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff.
Kudos to you.
We're just gonna break. I want to talk about, we're gonna break this over here, and I want to talk about some other stuff. Whoa, wrong thing. I didn't make that the right size. Sorry, everybody. As I screw up my entire overlay there. That's nice of me. Hold on. We'll fix it.
So professional. Just top tier show.
Super pro, as always. I may have forgotten to align that beforehand. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry. There we go.
It's the A-list quality content, folks. You get it right here.
That's right. C quality content right here. Okay. Oh, what? Go away. This thing go away. Whatever. It's fine. Okay. Whatever. Let's have a little discussion. Vince, I was excited to have you on the show because, look, I'm in, I'll give you my short example for my hobby time right now. This is a nerd intense week for me, okay? I've got my normal D&D game I played last night. We had a lot of fun. I'm making a Rifts character right now, so I'm surrounded by Rifts books. Rifts, the greatest role-playing game. If you're a Johnny, boy, oh boy, there's a particular type of itch that'll scratch, that's for sure. I obviously got to open all of my Modern Horizons 3 this last weekend because I got back from my overseas trip and had boxes waiting for me.
Sorry, boxes.
How
much did you buy?
Let's not discuss it. All right, so
right.
Does
chat know that it's the most expensive Magic set produced in the last 5 years?
It's an expensive set. So I'm knee deep in Magic, and of course that's every new. I'm building 50 new commander decks in Moxfield, right? Of course, because every new legend is well, maybe this is one that'll catch my attention. Let's see. Can I do something with Lurgoyfs? I don't know. Let's find out, right? Yeah, look, I got a fun special version of her, and you know how I am. The art is what makes me want to play the card. And And then at the same time, we're also right up here. We are on the precipice of AoS 4. So it is a intense week.
You've missed our Assassin's Creed, Vince.
And yes, I'm sorry, and Assassin's Creed preview.
Modern Horizons 3 launched last Tuesday digitally, so people like myself can play a load of it. And then come the next Tuesday, we're just revealing the next Magic set, which is Assassin's Creed, which is for some reason legal in a lot of the competitive formats that it shouldn't be, but it is because Wizards of the Coast are doing that now. So Modern Horizons comes out, Modern gets really exciting, and they're like, but wait, there's more, as we get 60 different cards of men in hoods that I can't pronounce the names of and don't know who they are.
Yes, it is a lot. It is a lot of men in hoods.
Is that not part of your hobby?
Yeah, exactly. Vince, how many boxes of Assassin's Creed do you have coming?
Zero. I will probably pick up. Oh, you said Vince. There's two of us. I'm so confused.
Yeah, sorry.
The
answer is the same for both. Go ahead.
Well, it's zero at the moment, but I do this streaming thing on Whatnot where I like give away packs and auction off some stuff. So I'll probably pick up one box for that. Like I wasn't going to buy any Modern Horizons products; it's too expensive, but people want it on there, so I end up picking up one box, which I'm not even opening for myself. I've opened like 4 boosters, and I'll sell and give away the other half.
I may have opened a lot of Modern Horizon 3 already before I left.
You guys are the problem. Everyone says that Wizards are making all these bad decisions. Your chat was saying earlier before we started, what can Games Workshop learn? Nothing. It's all terrible. Meanwhile, people are spending hundreds, if not hundreds and hundreds of pounds on this. Yes.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. I wasn't going to say thousands because I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to put that out into the world, but here we are.
There may be collector boxes on the at my home when I get back from this trip.
Fuck.
So
I don't want to yuck anyone's yum, but yeah. Have you guys bought any singles, or are you guys just rabid gamblers?
I am admittedly a rabid gambler, but no, I never buy singles until like the price comes back down after launch.
Sure.
It'll tank soon.
You've got to do the good thing where you're buying all the shit that you know is going to go up. That's when you're doing the real big.
That is the trick. You gotta buy. Yeah, you gotta figure out what are going to be the secret ramp ups. Yeah. But no, like what should Warhammer learn from Magic is a valid question, because like we talked earlier about the use of like how we're using I call it the stack jokingly, but like realistically, it is a clean interaction system.
Yeah.
Right.
As in what Magic has now, or what AoS is going towards. Sorry.
Yes.
But sure. Like that is the big one that I was going to say when you say, we'll talk about this question on the podcast. I'm like, it's rigid, hard defined, comprehensive rules, which Magic has had for like 30 years and has built upon. Meanwhile, GW just scrap their rule systems every 4 years and then badly rewrite them.
Right.
So they've just never ever attained anything like Magic. I've got here's an anecdote for you, right? So a local store for me was playing little tournaments of Warhammer, 500-point tournaments, and I took a Great Unclean one, and then they got upset and said they're going to ban named characters. And I had to explain to them very gently that the Great Unclean one's not a named character. That's not going to work for what they were trying to do. Anyway, so they're saying to me at the end of this event that we're talking about how there's a lot of rules as written versus rules as intended. There's a couple of discretionary things during the tournament. And I say, that is a problem. That's why we need FAQs and rules commentaries and stuff to clear it up. It's a shame that Warhammer is so muddy. And then they said to me, because they know like that I'm into Magic, they said, it's kind of like Magic, really. Like when someone casts a counter spell in Commander, who gets to respond? And I like pause, and I'm like, are you joking? And they're like, no. And they run events, they run tournaments for Magic at their store. I'm like, the person who gets there's literally a non-active player like priority system where it moves to the left. So at a table of 4 people for the audience at home, if I cast a spell, the person to my left gets priority. They pass. The next person comes back to me. Once all priority is passed, we resolve what's on the stack.
Right.
And Magic has had this for like the stack has probably existed for like 25 years ish. And it works. It works for competitive play to casual play because there's never a rules as intended versus rules as written conversation in Magic. Or if there is, it's one in every 10,000 cards that get printed. They have to figure it out.
It's when you get like super into the weeds of weird interaction.
Yeah, there's one in Modern Horizons. There's technically the card that makes energy and allows you to draw cards equal to the number of energy. You've got the wheel of possibility.
Yeah.
It's technically worded in a way that allows you to draw as many cards as you want, not the energy you pay into it because it's worded badly. So judges pointed this out, and they need to fix that. But that happens once in a blue moon. Meanwhile, every Warhammer edition, we need layers and layers of rules commentary, FAQs, commentary on the commentary. TOs have to just like put out a packet before the event to tell you how they're going to play certain things that's not clear. Like, and that's a shame, really, because that then leads to arguments at tables, misunderstandings, and it damages the fun of the game. So that's the big thing that Magic gets right, that AoS and Warhammer in general is moving towards, which is good. But
yeah, let me give you another one that I think is there that actually Warhammer is learning. Okay, and this is true from Magic and also from like video games and other things, and that's using data about your players to make decisions. Okay, like the WotC people and stuff like that. This is true for D&D as well, by the by. They use a lot of stuff out of D&D Beyond and things like that, or whatever it's called, the little digital thing online.
Yeah, Beyond, right?
Yeah. They pull data from it. They call that. It's not the only thing that makes their decision. It's not as though the data is like dictum and they're like, oh, well, we must do this because the data says this. But they use it to inform their decisions, right? Which is the proper way to use data to make decisions. And Warhammer's very much went that direction. The MetaWatch articles and all those kinds of things. I think that's been a very positive move. Data alone shouldn't decide things like, this army definitely needs a nerf because this number said something wrong, right? Okay. But it should alert the designers to think deeply about what's happening and take the data into account when making decisions like what do you buff, what do you nerf, what do you change, right? And then you should be stacking your own expertise and knowledge of the game and knowledge of what's coming and stuff like that on top of it to then make the right decisions. So I think that's something that Magic's done really well for a long time, like had really knowledgeable. I mean, you go back to articles on, the site that like Aaron Forsyth would write in the mid 2000s, and he'd be talking about tournament level data, and this is why we made this decision and stuff like that, right? It's been a part of decision making in Magic forever.
There is an interesting, there's a point that comes up with the casual competitive divide, which is a thing that I'm going to make more videos about this as time goes on, because it both bugs me and I'm also passionate about it, is that people seem to complain a lot, especially in the 40k space, about how tournament play and GW's obsession with tournament play is damaging the game overall and how it's played casually or as a being pretzel game. And there is an element of truth to it, because they're balancing around sort of the upper echelon, the top tier. Right. It's the same thing with like MOBAs and MMOs. It's difficult. They shouldn't always balance towards the top platinum tiers or whatever. Because then like the people in wood tier are just like absolutely screwed when their characters change and stuff. And I do think GW are doing that a little bit. They are chasing the balancing dream, but they're also not embracing it in a way that makes sense, because they want to release physical media that's completely out of date by the time it arrives, and then they want to charge you for it as well. So like they're kind of in some sort of weird limbo where they want to stick to these old styles of giving us media that doesn't make any sense and it's not up to date, whilst also adjusting periodically via the data from tournaments. And those two things are completely at odds with one another.
Right.
And that can't continue to work the way it does.
Yep. I agree.
But it's a sales thing, right? They want to sell you the media. The other thing about the data thing is that Wizards will often misconstrue data to make themselves, just to like argue the point they want to make.
Sure.
So like when Walking Dead was like, so the Walking Dead expansion for Magic, just to give some context to people at home, it had a lot of problems because it was like the first big crossover with another IP. It was The Walking Dead. So everyone's like, what the fuck's this got to do with, sorry, excuse my French. What's this got to do with Magic? It was timed exclusive cards that they were never going to reprint anywhere else, but then because of the uproar they did. It came out for a limited time window. There's like all these things that people were annoyed about. And then Wizards' response a little bit later, about 6 months to 8 months later, they're like, well, it was the best selling secret lair of all time, so it must have been good. Their argument was the sales data said it sold well, and thus not a single piece of your criticism as a community was valid. Although arguably they did respond to one by reprinting the cards in canon. So sometimes Wizards will just retroactively go, no, we were right because, and then just like point to a sales figure. And you're like, that like you said, that isn't always, data isn't, you can't just drive it purely on that.
When you're trying to use the data as the sole justification, you've gone wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Over the last couple banning conversations, you've seen it with both the One Ring and Bowmasters, where they're like, "Oh, this is okay because of blah blah blah," and it's like, no, that data is actually skewing way too hard, right? It's the meta compensating. But they're like, "Oh, this is fine," and no, that win rate isn't fine, or that inclusion rate, that's not okay.
Yeah, that's what they were doing with cards like Fury and Grief, and they ended up banning Fury much later. So they like sort of argued it was okay, and like, okay, it wasn't okay. And then it's like, well, has the data changed that much? I don't think it has. It's almost like you were like excusing the after the fact and similar.
I think that I think there can be some time where that's okay, where you can be like, well, yes, it's probably an issue, but we're not going to listen. Like, we're not going to do anything just yet. We want to see if if nature heals itself, right?
Yeah,
but I think you have to have a different conversation.
The example right there about Bowmaster and Children and similar and the One Ring and this era of design is that A, there's so many releases and so quickly, and B, things like Modern Horizons 3 coming out, the set that just came out, which is super powerful, will adjust everything. So like you have to see if nature will heal, if the metagame will adjust and formats will fix themselves, which arguably they kind of did. Although Modern Horizons 3 then introduced more cards that become the next one to discuss in that way, and the cycle continues and similar. The other thing about the data drive and the attitudes of the companies is like, whilst Games Workshop do this thing of looking at tournament players and fixing the game from there downwards, which they absolutely do, and it's an argument about how good or bad that is. I think it's on the whole, it's a good thing. Wizards are kind of the other way. Like during COVID and just after COVID, they just killed organized play in the tournament scene and then focused so hard on Commander, and that still hasn't fully rectified itself. They brought organized play back, but like every release now has huge considerations towards the casual crowd, perhaps more so than what Games Workshop do towards the casual crowd with their like articles and releases. So like you mentioned earlier,
that was going to be exactly my next point.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed is like, these cards must mention Commander because that's how we sell them, and it's just like,
My question is there something they should learn from? Is there something Warhammer should learn from Magic on the let's leave casual to the side for a moment, because you're right, that's a very loaded discussion, right? But on like, I think Spearhead is the first move in them wanting to create a better on ramp into the game. Yeah, like you mentioned.
Yes, but they tried and failed with Combat Patrol. Combat Patrol was the first attempt, and it was bad. It was
but it was a bad game.
Yeah,
but it was a bad game. I think that is arguably the difference, is that it seems like all the data that we're having come out on Spearhead is that it's actually an enjoyable play style, an enjoyable format.
Yeah.
And so to me,
I think they really learned from those mistakes with Combat Patrol.
Exactly. I'm hoping they did, because to me, this has been the biggest problem. It's so easy to get people into Magic. Like some time back, I got a bunch of my friends from my D&D group into Magic, and we now have decently regular Magic nights, and it's a lot of fun. It's casual Commander. We don't have to have like Rule Zero conversations or anything. We all know how we're playing. People make decks. It's fun. Like generally we play, we'll get together, we'll play 5-6 games. Nobody shows up with nonsense. When some people show up with weaker decks, some people show up with stronger decks. We have fun and interesting games basically every time. So it's a great night of Magic, right? And all of those people were new players. They hadn't really played Magic before. Yeah. And they all got in and had a good time relatively directly. And that was, of course, through buying like precons, right? That was their path in. Yeah. And then they would buy a little bit of a product that interested them. They'd alter the precon a little bit. Maybe they pick up a few singles here and there, standard stuff, right? There was a clear road to them doing that. And my one concern about Spearhead is I think it's a really good entry point, but it doesn't feel like there's still it feels still like good entry point, full game.
Yeah, it's a huge jump. Right. It's not a ramp, is it? It's not an onboarding ramp. It's like a tiny step up.
Yeah, but it's a step. That's exactly right. You still got to like jump. It's like trying to get up into a really high truck.
Yeah,
it's just like
it's a ladder with almost no rungs, perhaps. Like the interesting thing about where Magic is at in that space, and this is still touch on that casual thing without going too deeply, is that Commander as a format, which for people at home, this is the 4-player, 100-card deck, singleton. The format has no stakes. There is a competitive side to it. There is a competitive tournament scene, but like 99% of players just don't play in that format. That format itself is such a lightning in a bottle weird thing, because Magic didn't have it at one point. It was a fan-made format, and then 2011, Wizards were like, okay, people like this, we'll release some decks. And since then, the interest in it has skyrocketed, and Wizards' support of it has skyrocketed to the point that every release now cares about Commander, legendary creatures. Every set has 10 times the legendary. They printed, what was it? I think it's 49% of all legendary creatures ever printed were printed in like a 2-year window. Like,
yeah, sure. It's
exponential.
Yeah.
It's just, it's insane. Anyway, the point I'm getting at is that Commander takes Magic, which is normally a 1v1 game, but we've all played kitchen table multiplayer, and it creates this multiplayer 4-player environment that is so muckabout, so low stakes, so self-policing that a new player can rock up with their weak deck, and someone else at the table can like help them and support them politically within the game by making moves that will defend their stuff and things like that. The 4-player environment and the multiplayer environment does so much to police and help new players on ramp.
Agreed.
And Warhammer has nothing like that because by very nature it's quite cutthroat. 40k has its worse than AoS. Sometimes you will just play a game where if there's no terrain, one person just shoots the other person off the table. They have a bad experience. They're like, why am I even playing this game? And they move on. I think the games Warhammer and 1v1 Warhammer has alpha strike problems, first turn problems, double turn problems perhaps. All these things that Magic can have, but mitigates by having this really casual 4-player environment where people can like sort of stick up for one another and create like a social deduction social game that a lot of other games are missing and wish they had because Magic has done so successful off the back of it.
So completely agreed, right? How many times have you been at a Commander table where somebody has like probably a moderate power deck and it's having a bad time? Like they got land screwed or something's not going right. And basically everybody, without discussing, right? There's no open discussion, are just like, we're not going to mess with that player. They're having a bad time already. We're just going to let them be, right? Or they'll be like, hey, I've got this thing that can also give you a buff. You take the buff too, right? Like
there's also, it can be overt. Sometimes someone will target something on the board because they've got a destroy artifact thing, there's one artifact in play, and they'll target the person who's still far behind, like you're saying. And I've done it before, like, is that really the best target? Is this really a good idea? Is that really good?
You'll speak up and be like, hey, don't.
Yeah, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, you know what? Maybe this is a bad idea. I don't know why I'm using this spell right now. Because the game is so social. Commander is, sorry, not the game. The format of Commander is so social.
Yes.
That the social contract is more important than who wins or who loses for the vast majority of players. And every other game system in the world wishes they had that, whether it be a card game, miniature game, or whatever, right?
And that's why, to me, the middle piece there, that missing rung in the ladder or whatever, is some kind of multiplayer experience. And by the way, the easy answer to this is like one focusing on either doubles. Okay, so doubles tournaments are two people with 1,000 points each going, fighting each other, right? 2v2.
Doubles is so much fun. I wish that was more of a focus because you get that community aspect as well of finding a partner and working together. And...
Our favorite events in the US are doubles events.
Right. And to me, that's just such the simple answer because it's not completely the same. Obviously, you got 4 people independently, blah, 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 versus 4 people. You're still effectively.
You still get 2 casual players rock up and get smashed by 2 very competitively minded players who know what they're doing, right?
But at the same time, you can have the less experienced player partner with a more experienced player who can help them along and bring them into it. And so, like, to me, if I was sitting there and I'm GW, what I would learn from Magic is we need to up the social aspect of the game and give people a way for more experienced players to shepherd less experienced players through a game, right? And
there's 3 lads in my local store who play a free-for-all, and like they're playing, and they just don't have any rules to. They're playing 1v1v1.
Yeah,
and
we do that all the time.
There's just no good rules for it. There should be a rule system that allows 4 players to rock up with 750 points, 1,000 points each, and play a game mode where there is an objective and there is a clearly defined winner. But then you're just backstabbing and helping each other out and doing stupid things to each other because Mario Party. We need a Mario Party variant in Warhammer, but it doesn't exist.
100%. And this was Triumphant Treachery. My problem is with Triumphant Treachery is it adds too much.
What is Triumphant Treachery?
So Triumphant Treachery was a 3 or 4 player format where you could do a bunch of backstabbing. You all rock up, you all play in your own army. You can attack. There's complexity to it, but it's effectively a rule structure to do what you're talking about. Okay. But
it's a heavy, like the recent iteration is a super heavy secondary system.
Right. The problem with it is like you could have like extra points and you could bribe things and do these other units and you have these other special things going on. It's like no, stop it. Right. Like. Commander works because it's just 4 people playing Magic, right? There's not like you have 40 life, and there's Commander damage you can kill people with. But there's
a very small 4 small rule cluster that goes on top of Magic, and then it just works. Which is colored entity, Commander damage, attacks, and then once you understand those, and even then. A lot of people, they're so simple that most people just learn Magic through Commander now. That's the other thing. Commander is the onboarding that people learn through.
Right. And the problem is Triumph and Treachery, as much as I loved it, and I do, is it's like a lot of extra stuff. It's like you're dealing with this heavy extra rules when what you need is exactly what you're talking about. And there was a GHB they published back in 2017 that did have rules for this format where you could play multiplayer. It was meant to play like up to 6 people, which is wild. Like that's crazy. But it was conceptually there. And it had, scenarios where you could just be like, here are 3 people or 4 people. You rock up at your table. You've all got a 1,000-point army. Do this thing. And like you Warhammer, and here's how you decide who goes and who fights and, and stuff like that, right? Because all you just need is a simple governing mechanic to say, this is who actually fights. This is the way the turn order goes, yada, 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 yada.
I guess the real problem with GW systems, or at least the 2 main ones, AoS and 40k, is that they are I go, you go system outside of the combat step. And that doesn't really work very well for a 4-player multiplayer environment of you have to wait for 3 other people to finish their turns. Like in Magic, that can be a big ask sometimes, where people take a long time. And Magic turns are like magnitude shorter than Warhammer turns, right?
Sure.
So there is an inherent problem with that, where you need almost to have alternate activations of units to make the game actually work on some level, But that's something that Games Workshop seem to be very, very not wanting to even try.
Yeah, and I'll say, I play a lot of 3-player Warhammer, so this has been a very, very common way to play it at my table. Just like literally it's 3 of us, and because like I've got 2 buddies who would come over a lot, and we want to play Warhammer. We're not going to let one person just sit there and watch, so we're going to play 3-player Warhammer, and we make it work, right?
Sure.
And it works, and like the reality is certain things change. Like for example, shooting armies are a lot worse in that format, okay? Because basically the rule we had was you fight if you're in combat. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, if you're in, like, it alternates around, just like the turn order. So, combat is, you activate, then this person activates, and this person activates, and so on.
Yeah.
But if you're...
You get more action economy if you're in combat, right? Because...
Right. If you're in combat, you fight, right? That's the way that we decided it. So, like, if there's a scrum, and all 3 players' units are involved, right? Then you go around, and everybody activates their stuff. Simple. Okay, so relatively simple. But what that means is that like shooting's a lot worse because you're getting 1 shooting phase to 3 combat phases. Is that making sense what I'm saying there?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting because at like the height of shooting was terrible in AoS, I was playing lots of 3-player Warhammer, or sorry, 3-player AoS, and shooting was never a problem at our tables because it was just naturally so much weaker and just a bad choice. Right? It just corrected for all of the problems at the height of like that. Oh, shooting is terrible. It's way too strong. And I'm like, not in our games.
Because of that skew and how you have to like skew the existing rules, and that obviously throws the balance off on units and stuff. Like, that's why whenever I've played 3-player Warhammer with friends, it's always 2v1 or similar. Like we have to do that sort of thing where like one person gets 2k and you get 1,000 points each, which is okay for onboarding 2 newer players with 1 more experienced player. That kind of works. But again, it's just not that social element of it's a free for all, it's a mess about, it's GoldenEye 4-player on the N64, it's Mario Party. Oh my god,
such a good reference. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what every game kind of wants or needs. Every card game right now is trying to have, it's either launching with multiplayer or like Flesh and Blood did, introducing it later because they want to capture that Commander lightning,
Yeah. And so if it was me, I would be investing heavily into like you need to lay down the rules layer that makes it function and then stop. And then the problem is they would then build extra stuff on top of that, right? Like, and then there's also this other points, and you start with like 50 CPs, and you can use your CPs to do stuff and bribe units so they can't fight, and this and blah 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 blah, and like, it's too much. We didn't need that. I just need the rules layer to make this function. Right, make this work.
4 players at a table. There's one objective. The objective has to be picked up and carried off of the board by a unit, and then you all just alternate. And then everyone alternates into activations in the bolt action style. So you put your dice into a bag, pull out, get activations, and then you just roll with it. That's probably how I
you just alternate around in phase. Like everything starts alternating in phase. Like you go alternating by full phase. Like you could. It wouldn't take that much extra structure. Like there's ways you could do it even without that. But my point is.
Let me push back on that. Actually, I'd have thought about this before I froze.
Go for it.
With the new off-turn activations opportunities, right? In 4th edition. What if you just increased the command point usage or the command point gain
100%.
to 2 per additional player?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
so if you have a 3-player game, everybody gets 6. So now suddenly you're casting an off turn, you're shooting an off turn more
Right,
regularly.
you're very active in off-turn play. Yeah. Because you can
You're
charge
very
off-turn,
active
you
in
can move
off-turn.
off-turn. Yeah.
You can yeah, exactly, and that
The
gets you
shooting
into
off turn
that
in
you
4th edition is at -1 to hit, right?
It is, yeah.
It is.
Yeah,
It
which
is.
is really,
But
yeah,
it's you
no, that's fine. But
participating.
I'm saying that's good though, because Overwatch in 40k is hitting on 6s, which is just dreadful, and that is terrible for off-turn play. But a small, yeah, I think that's a good idea.
But -1, you'll still do it every so often, right? If it's a good shot, you'll be like, yeah, okay, well, we can do
exactly. That helps improve the problem you were saying earlier, where we're trying to move to there's a lot of combat going on. At least the hell, you might even just remove the -1, but that might be too good. I think how shooting is, you know.
But the point is that you're right. I think you're right, Tom, and I was going to make the same point with the amount of increased off-turn activity, right? We now live in a world where it's not unreasonable to like actually do that and not feel like you're just sitting on your hands for an hour while everybody else plays their turns. So, anyways, to me, that's the #1 lesson they should learn. Exactly that. Like, what should they learn from Magic more than anything? I don't want them to learn business practices and stuff like that. Although, again,
I was gonna say, because like blind box booster pack opening gambling, probably not.
They tried it.
I know,
that's a real thing.
with the heroes line, yeah. Yeah, that was their dipping their toe into booster product, right? I guess, and then what? I guess precons they're doing, like, but again, historically, Magic precons were historically always terrible. It was that Commander coming around gave us good precons,
right?
Because Wizards have always been very is reticent the right word to give us precons for competitive play, because that means they have them to reprint cards that are worth money, and there's a lot of things out there which aren't transferable to Warhammer because they don't have that like secondary market economy sort of thing. And the other one, I guess, is injecting your game full of other people's IP. Like, I love Universes Beyond stuff in Magic, but can you imagine the outcry if Warhammer 40k got like a Star Trek expansion or something? Like, it would just be like, you think female custodians are controversial? Let's see them add the Borg and just see people lose their mind. Klingons, the Klingon Vanguard or whatever.
Yeah. And so, like, Kevin said, how long does a 3-player game take? Usually about 3 hours. Same as a normal game. Didn't take any longer. You got 3 players on the table, things die faster.
Points. And you run 1,500 points. So we ran
1,500 points, yeah.
Which, by the way, let me just say, that is a point value that most people don't ever run, and it's a beautiful point value, because it really is. It's enough points to have tricks and toys, but it's not overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that introducing and paying attention to the formats that actually drive the social element, like that, is, to me, actually the missing piece of the puzzle and the #1 thing they should learn from Magic. That's actually what's there.
Like,
because
if Warhammer is a beer and pretzels game, there needs to be a bear and pretzels game mode, and I don't know if match play is that. And that's the other thing, right? They've really pushed towards match play. Like, they have no, like Crusade, for example, is a thing that can get a lot of narrative gamers really like pumped, but they just will not develop Crusade in a way that makes it accessible. Like, why is there not an app that just manages your stuff? Like, why does that not exist? Why does Necromunda not have an app? Why does any of the campaign games not have apps? Like, what year is it? What are you doing?
Right.
Like, so that's another way of getting another whole element of the community more like engaged and more excited beyond just buying and painting miniatures and playing a game mode. I'd love to play Crusade, but I don't want to manage spreadsheets, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that match play can be perfectly beer and pretzels. Like, the games we played were perfectly relaxed in beer and pretzels. Like, the players who'd come over and do 3-player games, they weren't serious. They're fart around games, right? Like, we're not playing for pinks here in any way, right? And so, like, to me, you can use, like, the architecture is there. Just give the fundamental way to do the thing. Just put the scaffolding in place to actually do this thing efficiently and effectively, and there you go. All right.
Yeah, cool. and also an evening out of like I said, Commander is a great stabilizer. There's another anecdote here that I've got this thing called Party Box, which is this huge selection of like 500 cards, and it's a Magic game that you play from one deck, and it's full of crap. It's got like Pokemon and Digimon and all sorts of nonsense in it. So often someone will have a 5,000 power creature in play, and people are like, how is that even balanced? Like, well, because you're not constructing the deck, you can't skew it with certain like synergies. So basically, you're playing off the top of your deck, And a 5,000 point creature in a 4, 5, or 6 player game isn't that impressive when everyone else's best interest is to keep other players alive to help them deal with, for example, the 5,000 power creature. Right. So people will kill those creatures for each other. People will just not attack other players because we're all laughing and joking about the Digimon that's in play and they won't want to knock someone out. And the multiplayer is a great stabilizer, a great equalizer in a way that 5,000 power creature is now no longer even a problem within the confines of the game. Warhammer again doesn't have that because it doesn't. There's no great equalizer like that. There's still first turn and alpha strike problems. That's why there needs to be a format or some way of adjusting that, and they've just never really.
In all our 3-player games, we never had a problem with like one person's army being too strong or something like that. Because guess what happened if the one person got way out ahead?
Yeah, they get
the other
crushed.
2 people are like, we got to go deal with this problem.
Exactly.
Right.
And that exactly, it's the same reason why like Commander doesn't need that many bans or banned commanders. It's a rarity. People scream for bans all the time, but you don't need them because if someone sits down and presents a commander like the new Nadu, the 3-mana 3/4 bird,
dumb bird,
the other 3 people are like, well, looks like we've got to beat the shit out of you now. Like, it's just like so clear, like the direction you've got to go and stuff to adjust it. Right. Yeah, multiplayer is such an equalizer, it's insane. There's another example of this with, I don't know if you guys know about this, the Soul Ring is a card that's in all commander decks. 1-mana artifact, makes 2 mana. It's so broken that it's banned in Legacy, it's pointed in pointed systems, and it's arguably a higher pick and cube than most Power 9. Like, you could take it over Black Lotus is completely reasonable. Soul Ring, people who play turn 1 Soul Ring and Commander have a lower win rate than players that don't play turn 1 Soul Ring and Commander. It rockets you ahead in mana, but it just pisses everyone off, and then people gang up on you and kill you. So like, statistically, you're less likely to win by playing a powerful, broken card on turn 1, because the other 3 players are like, well, that's a problem, and suddenly you're against 3 players' resources. Right. So multiplayer is such a good equalizing element for skill discrepancies and broken things in the game.
Yep. I would also say that oftentimes people keep bad hands because they saw a Soul Ring in there too, so that's got to be a contributory factor. Yeah. They're like, oh, risky keep, I've got 1 land and a Soul Ring, I can get there. It's like, okay, buddy, good choice.
Yeah, you absolutely can't. I've got into this habit now of like, if I have a Soul Ring, I just try not to deploy it until I think the mana advantage is worth it. So I might not play it till turn 4. Yeah, someone goes, sorry, everyone plays a turn 1 Soul Ring. I'm like, oh, look at this guy. And meanwhile, I've got my Soul Ring in my hand. I'm like, nah, the edge of pretending I haven't got one is so much better.
Because no one cares about a turn 7 Soul Ring. No one.
Yeah. I will sometimes joke that I've just drawn it and I haven't, because that's part of the political part of the game. Is like, let's push the aggression onto the other players who are getting ahead and make sure no one's looking at me.
Yep. Yeah. If you're not directly using that mana, if you're not doing the sort of dream like land Soul Ring, Signet or Fellwar Stone or something, right? Like
into like
so you can just like just lean into it, be the villain, right? Like if you're just gonna be like, I'm gonna just start this game on turn 6, let's go. You all are gonna now try to kill me, and I accept your terms, right? Like,
or you just don't do that, and you're like, look at this guy, this guy. Then on turn 4, you're like, oh, I guess I'll play all these rocks now and cast these spells. Like, oh no, whoopsie, I'm ahead. What happened? Oh, use your removal on the other guy. No, that's a shame.
Oh, that's darn.
And that happened in the Warhammer games. You let your opponent pick up the objective. Like, you better shoot that with your railgun now, because like he's got the objective, hasn't he?
Exactly.
Like, that's one thing, you know.
If we could turn on that multiplayer, those kinds of situations would suddenly emerge, and that would just that's such a powerful tool.
Yeah, the problems evaporate, and it actually creates a really interesting. Like, you keep using the language of community, but it creates a narrative dynamic because there's a communal storytelling that emerges out of that, and people will bond to each other into the game, 100%. Right? Over those experiences. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, people are much more impressed in Commander when someone does something absolutely insane and wrecks you, where in 1v1 environments, especially at events and stuff, it's normally just bad beat stories. It's very rare that someone celebrates someone else's successes.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I had a game of Magic some time back, like right after the Outlaws came out, we were playing, and somebody was playing like the Gonti deck or something, and another dude had a mill deck or whatever. And what effectively happened is player A puts Fractured Sanity or whatever, the card that makes you mill a number of cards equal to the number of cards you milled that turn.
Fraying Sanity, yeah.
Fraying Sanity, sorry. On this other player. So we got Gonti player, we've got Fraying Sanity player, and we've got the actual mill player, right? The Gonti player hits this guy, steals a card off the top of his deck that is the target player that effectively makes everybody mill half their library. Okay? Like, so player who's not playing a mill deck makes the entire table mill half their library.
maddening cacophony.
Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah, there's a couple of different things that make you mill half your library, and I don't remember what it is. And then
Traumatize is the famous one. That's the original. You mill half your deck. Full stop.
Yes. And then all of a sudden, we all collectively realize at once that at the end of this turn, that player with Fraying Sanity on them has to mill the rest of their entire library. Of their deck. And they're next, right? So they're just dead. And the person who's playing Gonti had no intention of killing that player. It's just like this insane whirlwind of things happened, and that player died. And that player who died was laughing hilariously. Thought it was like the funniest thing in the world because nobody intended for this series of events to occur, right? It wasn't done with any malice. It was just the wildness of what a multiplayer, multi-ball, things are bouncing off of each other suddenly allowed for, right? And that's like a very memorable game. And that player who died talks about it still and laughs and thought it was a really fun game, had a good time, right? Because it was so wildly weird.
If you can get players invested in losing, then you're doing something right?
Right. And if we could open up that multiplayer Warhammer, the same sorts of weird things would happen where like your unit would be here fighting this and use an ability, and then accidentally that would trigger something else to occur, and then chaos explodes, right? I know this because it has happened in my games, right? Where
it's interesting though, because it means sorry, I cut you off. Carry on.
Where like that kind of thing has happened and it becomes memorable.
Yeah, because like you need to open up the design language of what you need a basic change to Warhammer that allows for multiplayer, and then like opening up the language a little bit to allow things to bounce off each other, so they could trigger on like multiple opponents doing stuff and things like that.
Right,
and the same with like Magic over the years has adjusted its design language that most cards now, not most, but a lot of cards now will say each opponent, for example, instead of target player, because then it's better in multiplayer and stuff like that. So it's not even directly just saying commander, which is a very overt homage to the format, but it's just having cards that trigger off of multiple opponents and multiple graveyards and multiple libraries, stuff like that, which Warhammer doesn't really have. But once you crack the first nut, you can adjust a little bit into like 11th edition and 5th edition to allow things that trigger a bit more, and then you get like these exciting sort of cascading effects where you get synergies you'd never expect, stuff like that.
Yep, and it's really... I was just going to say, it's probably like chain explosions. Like this unit dies, does some mortal damage to everything in an area, and then like it makes this other unit go off and pop, right? Those kinds of things. Yeah, I
in some ways, in order to balance the game and to look at match and tournament play, Games Workshop love to remove those unexpected synergies now, right? There's a time when like every Nurgle unit would interact, and they're like, no, we better keyword it to Nurgle Death Guard, Nurgle Demon, so that these two things never shall meet, because they're trying to balance the game in a way, which is
ideally what it would be doing is utilizing a wider swath of units that would be appealing to the table, right? Or that would be appealing to play, particularly for multiplayer format. Like that natively happened with Magic when Commander came onto the scene. Like cards weren't designed for that, but they suddenly found value in this format. And I just wonder if maybe that's not the solution to some units. Even in the writing of rules of some units, like creating value where there's not seemingly value. Like it's not difficult in rewriting a war scroll to create value, multiplayer value that doesn't actually affect one-on-one.
Right.
Yeah. I guess like the reactive moves you see in 40k, some units just like move when a thing gets near them. Like if that happens more often in a turn because other players are activating, then you get this thing where like someone's scouts are just like moving 18 inches because people keep getting near them and stuff. And, like,
right, exactly. Yeah. All right, gentlemen. Well, I know it's late where both of you are, so thank you both for sticking with it for so long. This was really great. Good discussion. And for all of you out there, thank you very much. Really appreciate all of you watching. All of Pleasant Kenobi's stuff will be linked down below. I have been assured that the Wargaming podcast will be returning very shortly. I look forward to it. Check it out. Obviously, we all know Pleasant Kenobi from your Magic content, but your podcast, your Wargaming podcasts were great. I mean, Hellstorm Mikey was awesome, so it was a good opener.
Yeah, I should have another episode out tomorrow with Mikey. We go through just ragging on all the combat patrols and rating them on a tier list. That's the episode.
Fantastic.
Delightful.
Yeah. So that's back.
All of that will be linked down below. Go check it out if you haven't already checked out the Wargaming Podcast. If you know Kenobi but you haven't checked out the Wargaming Podcast, what are you doing with your life? Go do all that. As far as this, if you haven't hit liked and sub and all of that, of course, do all those things. If you're still here, I assume you are. But if you haven't, just click those little buttons. It's so easy. They're right down there. They make dings. They make you feel better. You'll be like 10% cooler than you were before you hit that button.
And it's free.
It's totally free. If you want to actually spend some money, there's lots of ways you can support the show. Down in the description, there's affiliate links for all your hobby stuff. You need paints, you need brushes, you need those things down below. Not only are there links you can pick up all that stuff, you might even save some money, and it gives the channel a nice kickback. There's Uncle Adam and I's newest game. Don't forget Death Wizards is out there, so check that out. And by the way, announcement around Death Wizards, if you stuck around this long, little announcement, the supplementary cards that we have, the PDF versions of those cards are now available. So if you were overseas and the shipping for those cards was a lot of money, you can now pick up a PDF version of those cards for only $10. So there you go. And so check all that, all linked down in the description. Other vids. Thank you so much for being here, buddy.
Thank you for having me. It's been great fun.
Absolutely. Thank you all out there for watching. We really appreciate it. As always, we'll see you next Wednesday.